Hello! Howdy, howdy, howdy. Good to see you, good to see you, good to see you. We're locking in, motherfuckers. Welcome to Lock-In-Tober. Welcome to Lock-In-Tober. Hello! Oh, my gain is still down? All right, I'll just turn it up a little bit. Boop, 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 boop. How about that? How about that? Oh, shit. Hello, half Asian Kevin Bacon. Hello, Daff. Hello, Pestwick. Hello. Probably need more. We'll go to 30. We'll go to 30. Good to see you all. Good to see you. Happy fucking Tuesday. 2 days into Lock-In-Tober. Technically 1 day, but I count yesterday because I start early. That's why you're locking in. Why aren't you debating? I will be. I plan to pause the debate at after every question and debate both candidates. Okay? We're going Atrioc party. Praise Tim Walls, please walk to the polls. Whichever candidate has the balls, has the huevos and the rancheros to get up there and say walk to the polls is gonna sweep 49 states. It's gonna. Are you gonna debate Big Chungus, bro? What a fucking dated reference. Bro was on a mobile phone from fucking 4 years ago trying to hit me with a Big Chungus random ass, doesn't even fit into the conversation type joke. That is your joke that you're fucking opening the day with? Are you gonna debate Big Chungus? R.I.P. Harambe. Get with the fucking times. We're doing Hawk Tua memes till they're fucking not only dead, but buried underground, rise from the dead and die again. Bro, I remember walking around the Twitch office and we were doing Harambe jokes all the time. So it's been 2016. When was Harambe? Had to be like 2016, right? Or 2016. Yeah, wow. That's crazy. In the office? Dude, Twitch office was full of Harambe jokes. In fact, probably too many for an office. I know Toph. Maybe some of you guys know Toph from Smash. Toph did a lot of dicks out for Harambe jokes in an office. Almost too many. Almost too many dicks out for Harambe jokes now that I think about it. Big T, though. Twitch HQ probably had the most Harambe jokes per square mile of any company. Maybe in 2016. We also had a lot of Pokemon Go addicts around that time. That's what I remember. I remember the Twitch office was filled with Pokemon Go addicts. I mean, everyone was in the country, but you'd have people, I mean, literally, it's like a fucking Silicon Valley show meme. You would have people in meetings with all the glass windows, and then someone be like, there's a Bulbasaur in conference room D, or whatever. And then everyone would fucking leave the meetings. Like, you'd see half the office get off their desks and fucking run. This shit was wild. Really, like, when you look back on it, it's actually fucking crazy. It's actually fucking crazy. Anyway, good to see you all. We got a big fucking day today. We got the debate. Starts in, let me get a timer up. The debate starts. Debate starts in. And I think it's a little less than that. It's probably 24. Like this. Boom, baby. Look at this good streamer. Literally on time, on budget. Under budget. Another cosmetic timer. It's not a cosmetic timer because they're not going to hold the debate based on my timer. If you think that JD Vance and Tim Walls are sitting around waiting for the Atrioc timer to hit 0, he delayed it again. He keeps pushing it back. No, they're not going to do that. Or they might, if they're fans of real content. If they realize, like, wait a minute. You know what they're probably thinking is like, okay, we could start early, but like, if we don't have Atrioc watching it, no one's going to watch it. Like, Atrioc is people's view into the debate. It's the only way in. Like, we have to wait for his timer because that is how we get the American people. I have all the leverage. Yeah, you know what? You're right. You know what? You're right. I'm going to tell him to delay it. Hello. Toter is cool. Thank you for the 14 months. Hey, big couch fan here. I think JD Vance will win this. It's kind of a cuck fantasy of yours then, huh? If you're a big couch fan, then why are you hoping that the biggest couch fucker will win this? You know what I'm saying? Even following your logic, it doesn't make it makes you even more of a fetishist than I understood. Hey, Big A, Misty's past few streams. Can we play JD Vance Bingo? I don't know what JD Vance Bingo is, and what do you mean missed me? I've been here. I was live yesterday, on time, under budget. Lock-in-tober, can we admit, is so far a success. It's only 1 day, it's only 2 days in, but it's a success. It was a Marketing Monday on a Monday, a full, complete one, with bonus after. Yeah, lock-in-tober, bro. And no one's ready for a world where it just works. No one's ready. Do you think Tim Walz tonight makes a couch joke? That is the question. I think no. I would say my bet would be no. But he has done it before. But even further, funnier follow-up question. Do you think JD Vance has prepped a response if he's hit with a couch joke? Like, has JD Vance sat down with, his team and brought up the couch thing, and then, like, can you imagine if JD Vance during the debate, Tim Walz hits a couch joke, and then JD Vance unbuttons his shirt and says, "Oh, really?" And it says, "I don't fuck couches." And he shows like he was totally prepped for it. And he gets this smug look on his face, like absolutely caught. And then Tim Walz crumbles. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, checkmate. You should be on his prep team. Me prepping JD Vance. It's like a conference table of everyone prepping JD Vance, and I just keep bringing up couch stuff. So we should talk about the port strike. What about the couch stuff? What are you gonna do about that, JD? Brutus19, thank you for the 4 months. Thank you for the 4 months. Hey, Big A, what are your thoughts on more and more people watching debates on streams rather than TV networks? My thoughts are this jives with everything that I've said about sports or anything else. People are watching more on streams in general, across all things, not just debates. And you're saying streams, maybe including like this React. People are just watching more shit online, bro. They watch it on YouTube. People just don't fucking have cable, dude. They don't sit down and watch a TV. And if they do have a TV, they use streaming services. The cord cutting's insane. It's catastrophic. No, like there's like many young people now who will never even understand what cable was. And it was like the most dominant business model for 60 years. The money printing machine, and they're not even going to understand. It's not even going to make sense to them. Hey, Atrioc, undecided voter here. Can you refresh the chat overlay? We got fancy new emotes to fit the season. You want me to refresh the chat overlay? Bear in mind that when I do this, it could possibly ruin the chat and like not work. And then we don't have chat on screen for the whole debate. Bear in mind that risk. All right. It actually refreshed just fine. Actually wasn't a big deal. But you never know with these things. You never know. Okay? Anyway, good to see you. I chose to wear this today because that's what I was wearing when I went out to lunch with my my very dear sweet mother who's in town. But I almost wore this. Because I thought you know, what better way to be a patriot and do my civic duty than by celebrating the GOAT Xi Jinping? Mom Atrioc on stream? Yeah, but not for debate night. I do want to try to get her on stream. She said she absolutely does not want to. She said, I'm not like your dad. I don't like the attention. I don't like, I don't think she wants to do it. She'll fuck with you. First of all, my mommy loves me. But second of all, she actually loves the stream. She watches too much of my stream, but she's a bit shy. She's a bit shy. She doesn't fuck with you, maybe. She's worried about the questions and like the fucking, hey, uppercase A, first time chatter. Sorry to be off topic. Well, appreciate that you apologize because no one else does. You know what? No one else does. That's very kind of you, actually, because often I'll be in the middle of a fucking presentation on one subject and someone's like, yeah, but what about my fucking 401k? Or what about just some fucking random fucking tangent? Or what about glizzies? Hey, Glizzmeister, we're going to talk about the inflation in glizzy prices. All right, so I probably apologize. If Lena Khan stays in the FTC, how long would it take to rid the economy of monopolies and have healthy competition grow into place? Oh, I don't know. That's not a fucking reasonable answer. I mean, she's not even winning most of the cases. It's a progress. It's good steps. It's good to have her, but it takes more than her. The FTC isn't even that powerful. Lena Khan is a light in the darkness, but there's a lot more to do. Her alone is not going to fucking. I got a request to collaborate. What is this new feature? No, I decline. Was that Emmett? I like Emmett, but I haven't seen that guy in 6 years. 4 or 5 years? That guy just requested to fucking. He wanted to combine our chats. I don't even know what he's. No, Emmett, appreciate it. Send me a DM first, bro. Don't look at the first message to me in years should not be, hey, let's collab. Let's fucking mix our chats. Dingbat, thank you for the 15 months. Fucking Washington, thank you for the 41 months. You said big 41 and still young. Washington, I want you to understand that your sub-month count is not your age in years. 41 months of sub does not mean you are a 41-year-old who needs to tell me you're still young. I assume you're young. Big A, how much do you think this debate can affect the outcome of the election? Assuming nothing crazy happens, not much. The VP debate is not a fucking big swing, but it can affect it if someone has a huge flop. A huge gaffe. It's really like if they both just say their shit and don't say their talking points and don't fuck up, it's probably not going to change much. Although I will say this. There's a line of attack that the Republicans have that I don't think is necessarily, actually, I don't think it's true. I don't think it's based in truth, but it is basically like, hey, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? If not, then vote these fucks out. Okay? Obviously, it's crazy to compare pre-COVID to post-COVID, but that's what they do. And the thing is, it really works. That line of attack, when people think about it, they go, well, shit's more expensive. And they just get mad. And it's just a proven line of attack that works, okay? Trump was told by everyone around him, do that line of attack. And he basically forgot about it the whole debate because fucking Kamala threw a bunch of, she just prepped. She prepped really well, and she completely threw him off, and he got kind of dog walked, especially in the first 2/3, right? And then right at the end, the very last question, he tried to like shoehorn it all in. So in this debate, JD Vance, I think, is better at sticking to the message. And it's going to be a tough thing to counter. It's not a great answer to it because most Americans, if you ask them, feel and experience the economy badly right now. Housing is so fucking expensive. If they have a house, they can't move because they can't trade down. You know, grocery prices are up. Everyone feels like, hey, just go back to things the way things were before COVID. They want that. And if you hammer that message over and over, that actually works. It's like proven effective. So if JD Vance can stick to that, it's going to be tougher. Even though I'm obviously a big Tim Walz fan, I just think that's what I'm like looking forward to seeing how it's handled tonight. I don't think JD Vance has much charisma, but he can stick to a script. He's not, I think, easily thrown off track the way that Trump was. JD Vance, the couch guy? Yeah, the couch guy. I know that we're calling him the couch guy. I don't think that during the debate he's going to start humping a couch. Sorry, I just can't control my urges. I don't think he's going to say that. Right? So I think there's a very small chance that's going to impact his debate. He might get horned up though. Well, listen, we can't rule it out. I just think it's unlikely. Is Tim Walz going to press JD Vance in the Haitian story? Maybe. I don't know. That was insane. Big A, do you see that a Marketing Monday grad is an executive at Shein? What?
We don't think ourselves as a globalized company. We think ourselves as a glocalized company.
Holy shit. Holy shit. Yes. Glocal, baby. Dude, A fucking men. That's so funny. That's my favorite fucking buzzword for 10 years, maybe. I've been fucking making that joke.
With emphasis on the localizing. It's global local. Global local, people are looking more inward as a trend, whether we like it or not. If you want your business to thrive,
I might put that on my soundboard. This
on
right
a global scale, we think ourselves as a glocalized company.
That's great. That's awesome. Hey, Atrioc, first time chatter here. Do you have any thoughts on Hitman Absolution? Have you just played the new Hitman games? They're all great. Or are you just going back to the catalog? I'm not a big fan of the older Hitman. I mean, I like the older Hitman games for what they were, but I think the new Hitman games just beat them. They beat them out. I think they're just better. I love Blood Money for its time, but I wouldn't play it over the new one. Do you think a fly will land on JD Vance's face? I think that would be pretty funny. I have no idea. I can't predict the movement of flies, bro. No, I don't know. I have no fucking... thanks for your question, though, huh? Thanks for your question. First time chatter. My friend said you like glizzies, and I also like glizzies. This is a town hall debate. This is like the average American voter. You know, it's like this is why candidates don't talk about policy anymore. This is you, okay? This is you. Because if they were to take fucking Obama and Romney again and put them out there and have them like town hall questions, it would be like, hey, Obama, I heard you're Satan. Hey, Romney, Oprah Romney style. It's just like, what the fuck? How do they answer that? How do they fucking answer that, bro? Anyone ever tell you have pretty eyes? Are you flirting with me, Hubcap Joe? I'm married, Hubcap Joe. So I don't know. I feel like you're crossing a line here, Hubcap Joe, even though... hey, Atrioc, can you post one of the day by 5 minutes? I'm trying to launch your latest Big A videos. I'm sure Tim won't mind. Tim won't mind, but JD Vance is a bit of a stickler. So unfortunately, we will start on time in 8 minutes and 34 seconds. 8 minutes and 34 seconds till we have the debate. Let me make sure I got the debate stream fresh and ready. Debate. 125K watching. Wait, is it supposed to be on NBC? They agreed to an NBC debate? I'm surprised. I'm surprised Vance agreed. Okay. CBS? Okay, I'm waiting for the CBS stream then. Debate CBS. Oh, there it is. That's the real one. Okay, good. I was like, there we go. That's bigger. More views too. Okay, we got a CBS open here. Starting here in 8 minutes. It's going to be interesting. My understanding, folks.
I had progressively fallen deeper.
I don't care. My understanding, folks, is that it's about sports gambling. Is that tonight's debate is unmoderated, no fact checking, no muted mics. Everyone can yap over each other. Tonight's debate is going to be a fustercluck. It's going to be... it could devolve. We'll see. I have no idea, but it could devolve. It's going to be messy. Messy and sloppy, just like we like it. Americans, we don't want our debate on policy. We want our debate on vibes, and we want our debate on... we want it to get trashy. We want it to be like Jerry Springer. I want somebody's baby mama to come out and hit them over the back with a chair or something. I want some reality TV. Yeah, I want to not find out you're not the father. yeah. I want the moderator to bring out a couch and an ottoman, a little baby ottoman, and then point to Vance and say, you're not the father. And then the chat goes, woo! That would be fucking incredible. That would make the year. But we're not quite there, folks. I know we're all trying to get to idiocracy. We're so close, but we're not there yet. So it's going to be a normal debate with real questions tonight. Who would win in a fist fight? They might imply that. Similar to the golf stuff of the Biden-Trump debate. Two men out there debating. They might get a little machismo. They might try to imply that one is stronger or more masculine than the other. Bro, did you see this? I thought I support Tim Walz because I like his the legislation he passed as governor, and I like the way he messages his platform, and I like that he seems like a normal dude. However, I found out actually that he's a soy boy cuck because of this segment.
Real struggle for the Harrison. They can. Reaches out.
And now bossing Walz around, telling him to fix trucks, eat donuts, and watch football. Timmy was at the Michigan-Minnesota game Saturday and hugged the Gopher mascot like it was his husband returning home from war.
He hugged the Gopher, dude, like it was his husband returning home from war. Gay, okay? Heard you loud and clear. This guy could not be vice president because of the way he hugged this mascot. Look at it.
Hug the Gopher mascot.
By the way, if your husband returns from war and the first thing you do is give him a double high five up top. That's fucking crazy. Then you've been cheating while he was gone. That is... Nobody wants an up top.
Like it was his husband returning home from war. Men should never act that way around a mascot. You throw a football on the sideline. You don't grope a man in a Gopher suit.
Well, that was groping what he was doing. I mean, it was very sexual. I'm glad they caught this on camera to really show Walz for the deviant he is. Is this serious? I mean, it's on cable TV. It gets millions of views. It's serious, bro. Hum ba dum bum bum. Come home from World War II. Way to go, bud. Way to go, champ. 3 minutes, folks. Hi, Mr. Atrioc. I just subscribed using my Amazon Prime complimentary Twitch subscription, and it seems you didn't thank me instantly. I understand, though, because you're working the hardest job in the world, streamer. I forgive you, Glizzy. Powerful message. Thank you for your forgiveness, and thank you for your sub. Don't worry. In the future, once we have AI vision contact lenses, and I'm connected into the cyber network for Amazon, it will force me to see your Prime, and thank you for it. And thank you and Jeff Bezos for his fucking service. So just wait a few years and we'll get there. White bag thing for the prime. Hey, Atrioc, I have a pretty serious debate coming up in about 2.5 minutes. Any tips? JD Vance in chat as D'Artagnan 1872. One day it'll happen, dude. One day we're going to have a presidential and a vice presidential candidate who are Twitch chatters, who spammed Glizzy or spammed fucking W Riz in someone's fucking. They're like, those people are going to be our political figures. That's wild. W debate. Did you sing happy birthday to old Jimbo today? Who's old Jimbo? Whose birthday is it? Like a smiley face. Thank you for the 500 bits. What's up, King? Watching this from ASU English major Sag. You're an ASU English major? You have a great future as a content creator. That's the only thing I've ever seen work. Only thing I've ever seen work for ASU English major. Jimmy Carter's 100? Can I say it? Too young. Too young to be president. I need someone with a little more experience. 100 is like just 100? Damn, he does. Damn, that's fucking. That is kind of badass, dude. To hit the big 3 digits. That's a full life. That's a sheesh moment. Happy birthday, Jimmy Carter. I know you watch. I know you're in chat. Jimmy, good to see you. Good to see you in chat. Congrats on the hundo bomb. Clinton younger than Biden? Dude, it's so funny. Clinton younger than Biden, and Clinton was president fucking 24 years ago. It's starting. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it's time for the debate.
Tonight, with just over a month to go until Election Day, the first and only meeting between the two men who hope to become Vice President of the United States, Democratic Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota and Republican Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio.
Now, this is likely the final debate of this election cycle, and voting is already underway in 20 states. CBS News polling shows this remains a race either presidential candidate could win. The CBS News vice presidential debate starts now.
I'm looking for a 1080. I'm looking for a 1080 version.
Take this country back. And we are ready to continue to build the future together.
There is no 1080 version.
This whole country red with President Donald J. Trump's leadership.
You know what's at the end of this little journey? Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States.
This is a CBS News special.
Okay,
live
here
from
we
CBS
go.
News headquarters in New York. America decides. The vice presidential debate.
Who's got to? If anyone finds a 1080 stream, link me. I'll switch.
Good evening, I'm Nora O'Donnell, and thank
But I
you
checked
for joining
CBS
us
and NBC,
for
they both have
tonight's CBS
720.
News Vice Presidential Debate. We want to welcome our viewers on CBS, on other networks here in the U.S. and around the world.
C-SPAN has 1080?
We have a consequential night ahead, and our focus is the issues that matter to you, the voter. Let's introduce the candidates. Minnesota's Democratic Governor Tim Walz tonight, and Ohio's Republican Senator J.D. Vance tonight, meeting for the first time. Good evening, I'm Nora O'Donnell, and thank you for joining us for tonight's CBS News.
This is
Vice
1080, but
Debate. We want to welcome
it's
our viewers
1080 of a
on
720
CBS,
feed, I
on
think.
other networks here in the U.S. and around the world. We have a consequential night ahead, and our focus is the issues that matter to you, the voter. Let's introduce the candidates. Minnesota's Democratic Governor Tim Walz and Ohio's Republican Senator J.D. Vance tonight, meeting for the first time.
All right, here we go. Here we go. They're meeting for the first time.
I'm Margaret Brennan.
Handshakes?
In order
Okay.
to have a thoughtful and civil debate, these are the
We'll
rules
see.
that both campaigns have agreed to. Questions
Soap
will
song?
be directed at one candidate who will have 2 minutes to respond. The other candidate will be allowed 2 minutes for rebuttal. Then each candidate will get another minute to make further points, with an additional 1 minute each at the discretion of the moderator. The primary role of the moderators is to facilitate the debate between the candidates, enforce the rules, and provide the candidates with the opportunity to fact-check claims made by each other.
CBS News reserves the right to mute the candidates' microphones to maintain decorum. We have not shared the questions or topics with the campaigns. The stage is set. Governor, Senator, thank you for joining us. Let's get started. Tonight, our country is facing several unfolding crises. The Middle East is on the brink of war. Americans are suffering from the catastrophic impact of Hurricane Helene. And now a labor strike as 25,000 dock workers
nobody's gotten
from Maine
Silk
to
Song.
Texas are picketing. We're going to begin tonight with the Middle East. Margaret.
Thank you,
They're
Nora.
opening with the Middle East.
Earlier today, Iran launched its largest attack yet on Israel, but that attack failed, thanks to joint U.S. and Israeli defensive action.
Let's ratchet this thing
Biden
up.
has deployed more than 40,000 U.S. military personnel and assets to that region over the past year to try to prevent a regional war.
The first time you meet somebody, you're debating Israel-Palestine.
But the U.S. still considers it the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, and it has drastically reduced the time it would take to develop a nuclear weapon. It is down now to 1 or 2 weeks' time. Governor Walz, if you were the final voice in the situation room,
Iran is 1 or 2 weeks from a nuclear weapon?
Would you oppose a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran? You have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you, and thank you for those joining at home tonight. Let's keep in mind where this started. October 7th, Hamas terrorists massacred over 1,400 Israelis and took prisoners.
We are opening
Israel's
heavy.
ability to be able to defend itself is absolutely fundamental. Getting its hostages back, fundamental, and ending the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. But the expansion of Israel and its proxies is an absolute fundamental necessity for the United States to have the steady leadership there. You saw it experienced today, where along with our Israeli partners and our coalition, able to stop the incoming attack. But what's fundamental here is that steady leadership is going to matter. It's clear, and the world saw it on that debate stage a few weeks ago. A nearly 80-year-old Donald Trump talking about crowd sizes is not what we need in this moment. But it's not just that. It's those that were closest to Donald Trump that understand how dangerous he is when the world is this dangerous.
This is a crazy first
His Chief
question.
of Staff, John Kelly, said that he was the most flawed human being he'd ever met. And both of his secretaries of defense and his national security advisors said he should be nowhere near the White House. Now, the person closest to them, Donald Trump, said he's unfit for the highest office. That was Senator Vance. What we've seen out of Vice President Harris is we've seen steady leadership. We've seen a calmness that is able to draw on the coalitions to bring them together. Understanding that our allies matter. When our allies see Donald Trump turn towards Vladimir Putin, turn towards
I agree on this really
North
a whole
Korea.
lot.
When we start to see that type of fickleness around holding the coalitions together, we will stay committed. And as the Vice President said today we will protect our forces.
It's still NATO stuff. I don't know if it plays with anyone, but I agree. I like it. I think the fact that we're like
Senator Vance, the same
not
question.
trying to build our ties with Germany, France. It's like that's so important.
A preemptive strike by Israel on Iran. You have 2 minutes.
So, Margaret, I want to answer the question. First of all, thanks, Governor. Thanks to CBS for hosting the debate. And thanks, most importantly, to the American people who are watching this evening and caring enough about this country to pay attention to this vice presidential debate. I want to answer the question, but I want to actually give an introduction to myself a little bit because I recognize a lot of Americans don't know who either one of us are. I was raised in a working-class family. My mother required food assistance for periods of her life. My grandmother required Social Security help to raise me, and she raised me in part because my own mother struggled with addiction for a big chunk of my early life. I went to college on the GI Bill after I enlisted in the Marine Corps and served in Iraq. And so I stand here asking to be your vice president with extraordinary gratitude for this country, for the American dream that made it possible for me to live my dreams. And most importantly, I know that a lot of you are worried about the chaos in the world and the feeling that the American dream is unattainable. I want to try to convince you tonight over the next 90 minutes that if we get better leadership in the White House, if we get Donald Trump back in the White House, the American dream is going to be attainable once again. Now, to answer this particular question, we have to remember that as much as Governor Walz just accused Donald Trump of being an agent of chaos, Donald Trump actually delivered stability in the world, and he did it by establishing effective deterrence. People were afraid of stepping out of line. Iran, which launched this attack, has received over $100 billion in unfrozen assets thanks to the Kamala Harris administration. What do they use that money for? They use it to buy weapons that they're now launching against our allies, and God forbid, potentially launching against the United States
without a fact
as
check,
well.
bro. I have
Donald Trump recognized
no idea what
that
he's even
for people
referencing.
to fear the United States, you needed peace.
The Kamala
through strength.
administration,
they
though,
needed
is
to recognize
funny.
that if they got out of line, the United States global leadership would put stability and peace back in the world. Now, you asked about a preemptive strike, Margaret, and I want to answer the question. Look, it is up to Israel what they think they need to do to keep their country safe, and we should support our allies wherever they are when they're fighting the bad guys. I think that's the right approach to take with the Israel question.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Walz,
that was 14 seconds on the question and fucking 3.5 minutes of yap.
We'll sometimes hear a revisionist history, but when Donald Trump was in office, it was Donald Trump who we had a coalition of nations that had boxed Iran's nuclear program in, the inability to advance it. Donald Trump pulled that program and put nothing else in its place. So Iran is closer to a nuclear weapon than they were before because of Donald Trump's fickle leadership. And when Iran shot down an American aircraft in international airspace, Donald Trump tweeted, because that's the standard diplomacy of Donald Trump. And when Iranian missiles did fall near U.S. troops and they received traumatic brain injuries, Donald Trump wrote it off as headaches. Look, our allies understand that Donald Trump is fickle. He will go to whoever has the most flattery or where it makes sense to him. Steady leadership like you witnessed today, like you witnessed in April. Both Iranian attacks were repelled. Our coalition is strong, and we need the steady leadership that Kamala Harris is providing.
Senator Vance, the U.S. did
What's
have a
funny is,
diplomatic
like,
deal with Iran to temporarily pause parts of its nuclear program, and President Trump did exit that deal. He
On
recently
the
said,
Middle East
just 5
questions, they
days
both
ago,
basically
the US
agree.
Must now make
Like, they
a
don't disagree on
deal
anything.
with
They just
Iran because the
they just
consequences
throw
are impossible.
name calls on like
Did he make a
which one's
mistake?
going to
You have
do
1
the
minute.
execution of it better. But there's
diplomacy is not a dirty
policy-wise,
word,
they don't disagree.
Governor Walz just said is quite extraordinary. You yourself just
So
said
it's a crazy
Iran
question
is as
to
close
open
to a
with.
nuclear weapon today as they have ever been. And Governor Walz, you blame Donald Trump. Who has been the vice president for the last
it's just like a
3.5
no you.
years?
Like,
And the answer
no,
is
you're going to let them get a nuclear weapon. No, you're going to let them get a nuclear
Donald
weapon.
Trump consistently made the world more secure. Now, we talk about what the sequence of events that led us to where we are right now, and you can't ignore October the 7th, which I appreciate Governor Walz bringing up. But when did Iran and Hamas and their proxies attack Israel? It was during the administration of Kamala Harris. So Governor Walz can criticize Donald Trump's tweets, but effective, smart diplomacy and peace through strength is how you bring
I can see this talking point now. Okay,
Donald Trump has
bro,
already
it doesn't
done it
become
once
you're the
before. Ask
VP.
yourself
It's not
at
your
home,
administration. This is not going to be
when
the
was
JD
last
Vance
time,
administration
I'm 40 years old, when was the
if
last
Trump gets
time
elected.
that an American president didn't have a major conflict break out? The only answer is during the 4 years that Donald Trump was president.
Gentlemen, we have a lot to get to. Nora?
Margaret, thank you. Let's turn now to Hurricane Helene. The storm could become one of the deadliest on record. More than 160 people are dead and hundreds more are missing. Scientists say climate change makes these hurricanes larger, stronger, and more deadly because of the historic rainfall. Senator Vance, according to CBS News polling, 7 in 10 Americans and more than 60% of Republicans under the age of 45 favor the U.S. taking steps to try and reduce climate change. Senator, what responsibility would the Trump administration have to try and reduce the impact of climate change? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Sure. So first of all, let's start with the hurricane, because it's an unbelievable, unspeakable human tragedy. I just saw today, actually, a photograph of 2 grandparents on a roof with a 6-year-old child, and it was the last photograph ever taken of them because the roof collapsed and those innocent people lost their lives. And I'm sure Governor Walz joins me in saying our hearts go out to those innocent people, our prayers go out to them, and we want as robust and aggressive as a federal response as we can get to save as many lives as possible. And then, of
Climate
course,
change,
after
though?
words,
Are you gonna answer
to help
it?
the people in those communities rebuild. I mean, these are communities that I love. Some of them I know very personally in Appalachia, all across the Southeast. They need their government to do their job, and I commit that when Donald Trump is president again, the government will put the citizens of this country first when they suffer from a disaster. Now, Nora, you asked about climate change. I think this is a very important issue. Look, a lot of people are justifiably worried about all these crazy weather patterns. I think it's important for us, first of all, to say, Donald Trump and I support clean air, clean water. We want the environment to be cleaner and safer. But one of the things that I've noticed some of our Democratic friends talking a lot about is a concern about carbon emissions, this idea that carbon emissions drives all of the climate change. Well, let's just say that's true, just for the sake of argument, so we're not arguing about weird science. Let's just say that's true. Well, if you believe that, what would you want to do? The answer is that you'd want to reshore as much American manufacturing as possible, and you'd want to produce as much energy as possible in the United States of America because we're the cleanest economy in the entire world. What have Kamala Harris's policies actually led to? More energy production in China, more manufacturing overseas, more doing business in some of the dirtiest parts of the entire world.
We don't do energy production in China.
The amount of carbon emissions
China's a massive oil importer.
Output.
We're an export. Wait, what the fuck are you talking about?
Cleaner air and cleaner water. The best thing to do is to double down and invest in American workers and the American people. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris has done exactly the opposite.
Wait, that was such a yap question.
I didn't to respond.
Well, we got close to an agreement because all those things are happening. Look, first of all, it is a horrific tragedy with this hurricane, and my heart goes out to the folks that are down there.
We're getting more energy from China is a crazy statement. That's just not true.
As co-chair of the Council of Governors, as we work together on these emergency managements, governors know no partisanship. They work together to all of the governors and the emergency responders are on the ground. Those happen on the front end. The federal government comes in, makes sure they're there to that we recover, but we're still in that phase where we need to make sure that they're staying focused. Now, look, coming back to the climate change issue, there's no doubt this thing roared onto the scene faster and stronger than anything we've seen. Senator Vance has said that there's a climate problem in the past. Donald Trump called it a hoax and then joked that these things would make more beachfront property to be able to invest in. What we've seen out of the Harris administration now, the Biden-Harris administration, is we've seen this investment. We've seen massive investments, the biggest in global history that we've seen in the Inflation Reduction Act, has created jobs all across the country. 2,000 in Jeffersonville, Ohio, taking the EV technology that we invented and making it here. 200,000 jobs across the country. The largest solar manufacturing plant in North America sits in Minnesota. But my farmers know climate change is real. They've seen 500-year droughts, 500-year floods back to back. But what they're doing is adapting, and this has allowed them to tell me, look, I harvest corn, I harvest soybean, and I harvest wind. We are producing more natural gas and more oil at any time than we ever have.
True.
We're also producing more clean energy. So the solution for us is to continue to move forward, that climate change is real. Reducing our impact is absolutely critical, but this is not a false choice. You can do that at the same time you're creating the jobs that we're seeing all across the country. That's exactly what this administration has done. We are seeing us becoming an energy superpower for the future, not just the current. And that's what absolutely makes sense. And
the United States right now is like the world's first energy gigapower.
Thank you, Senator. I want to
I'm
give
not
you an
kidding.
opportunity to
It's
respond there.
100% fact. He's not really
President Trump has
putting it in terms that are easy to.
Do you agree?
I think he needs
what the
to
president has said
put some
is that if
stank
the
on
Democrats,
it. But
in particular Kamala Harris and her leadership,
and also saying nuclear
really
would be nice.
That climate change is serious. What they would be doing is more manufacturing and more energy production in the United States of America, and that's not what they're doing. So clearly, Kamala Harris herself doesn't believe her own rhetoric on this.
They are doing that.
She would actually agree with Donald Trump's energy policies. Now, something Governor Walz said I think is important to touch upon, because when we talk about clean energy, I think that's a slogan that often the Democrats will use here. And I'm talking, of course, about the Democratic leadership. And the real issue is that if you're spending hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars of American taxpayer money on solar panels that are made in China, number one, you're going to make the economy dirtier. We should be making more of those solar panels here in the United States of America. Some of them are, Tim, but a lot of them are being made overseas in China, especially the components that go into those solar panels. So if you really want to make the environment cleaner, you've got to invest in more energy production. We haven't built a nuclear facility, I think, one in the past 40 years.
If you want solar panels, there's nothing wrong with buying a fuck ton of them from China for super cheap.
Raised energy prices and also
there's nothing wrong with that. I just want you to know there's nothing wrong with that.
Would you like to respond?
Well, look.
Did he mention nuclear?
Wait, I
mentioned
more natural gas than we ever have. There's no moratorium on that. We're producing more oil. But the folks know, and like I said again, these are not liberal folks.
Wish I heard
these
the
are
nuclear.
not folks that are Green New Deal folks. These are farmers that have been drought one year, massive flooding the next year. They understand that it makes sense. Look, our #1 export cannot be topsoil from erosion from these massive storms. We saw it in Minnesota this summer. And thinking about how do we respond to that, we're thinking ahead on this. And what Kamala Harris has been able to do in Minnesota, we're starting to weatherproof some of these things. The infrastructure law that was passed allows us to think about mitigation in the future. How do we make sure that we're protecting by burying our power lines? How do we make sure that we're protecting lakefronts and things that we're seeing more and more of? But to call it a hoax and to take the oil company executives to Mar-a-Lago, say, give me money for my campaign, and I'll let you do whatever you want. We can be smarter about that, and an all-above energy policy is exactly what she's doing, creating those jobs right here.
Governor, your time is up. The overwhelming consensus among scientists is
Can
that
I
the
say,
Earth's climate is warming at an unprecedented rate.
From both of them,
Margaret?
I'll give credibility.
We're going to turn now
That
to
question
immigration.
had
The
more
crisis at
policy
the
debate than the
US-Mexico
entire
border
last debate
consistently ranks as
between
one of
Kamala
the
and Trump.
top issue
That had
American
more
voters.
substantive
Senator Vance,
policy debate.
Your campaign
and it wasn't even
is
that
pledging to
much, but it
carry
was
out
more than the
largest
whole
mass
last debate.
deportation plan in American history and to use the U.S. military to do so. Could you be more specific about exactly how this will work? For example, would you deport parents who have entered the U.S. illegally and separate them from any of their children who were born on U.S. soil? You have 2 minutes.
So first of all, Margaret, before we talk about
one bite at a
deportations,
time
we have to
right?
stop the bleeding. We have a historic immigration crisis because Kamala Harris started and said that she wanted to undo all of Donald Trump's border policies. 94 executive orders suspending deportations, decriminalizing illegal aliens, massively increasing the asylum fraud that exists in our system. That has opened the floodgates. And what it's meant is that a lot of fentanyl is coming into our country. I had a mother who struggled with opioid addiction and has gotten clean.
Bro, he's doing a personal story for every question.
With addiction to be deprived of their second chance because Kamala Harris let in fentanyl into our communities at record levels. So you've got to stop the bleeding. You've got to re-implement Donald Trump's border policies, build the wall, re-implement deportations.
What if we want more fentanyl, JD Vance?
What do we actually do? So we've got 25 million illegal aliens who are here in the country. What do we do with them? I think the first thing that we do is we start with the criminal migrants. About 1 million of those people have committed some form of crime in addition to crossing the border illegally. I think you start with deportations on those folks. And then I think you make it harder for illegal aliens to undercut the wages of American workers. A lot of people will go home if they can't work for less than minimum wage in our own country. And by the way, that'll be really good for our workers who just want to earn a fair wage for doing a good day's work. And the final point, Margaret, is you ask about family separation. Right now in this country, Margaret, we have 320,000 children that the Department of Homeland Security has effectively lost. Some of them have been sex trafficked. Some of them hopefully are at homes with their families. Some of them have been used as drug trafficking mules. The real family separation policy in this country is unfortunately Kamala Harris's wide open southern border. And I'd ask my fellow Americans to remember when she came into office, she said she was going to do this. Real leadership would be saying, you know what, I screwed up. We're going to go back to Donald Trump's border policies. I wish that she would do that. It would be good for all of us.
Governor, do you care to respond to any of those specific allegations, including that the vice president is, quote, letting in fentanyl and using kids as drug mules, among other things regarding children?
The drug mule is not true, but I will say about this, about the fentanyl, because this is a crisis of this, the opioid crisis. And the good news on this is the last 12 months saw the largest decrease in opioid deaths in our nation's history, 30% decrease in Ohio. But there's still more work to do. But let's go back to this on immigration. Kamala Harris was the Attorney General of the largest state and a border state in California. She's the only person in this race who prosecuted transnational gangs for human trafficking and drug interventions. But look, we all want to solve this. Most of us want to solve this, and that is the United States Congress. That's the Border Patrol agents. That's the Chamber of Commerce. That's most Americans out here. That's why we had the fairest and the toughest bill on immigration that this nation's seen. It was crafted by a conservative senator from Oklahoma, James Lankford. I know him. He's super conservative, but he's a man of principle, wants to get it done. Democrats and Republicans worked on this piece of legislation. The Border Patrol said, this is what we need in here. These are the experts. And the Chamber of Commerce and the Wall Street Journal said, pass this thing. Kamala Harris helped get there. 1,500 new border agents, detection for drugs, DOJ money to speed up these the adjudications on this, just what America wants. But as soon as I was getting ready to pass and actually tackle this, Donald Trump said no, told them to vote against it because it gives him a campaign issue. It gives him to, what would Donald Trump talk about if we actually did some of these things? And they need to be done by the legislature. You can't just do this through the executive branch. So look, we have the options to do this. Donald Trump had 4 years.
I like that line.
4 years to do this. And he promised you, America, how easy it would be. I'll build you a big, beautiful wall, and Mexico will pay for it. Less than 2% of that wall got built, and Mexico didn't pay a dime. But here we are again, 9 years after he came down that escalator, dehumanizing people and telling them what he was going to do. As far as the deportation plan, at one point, Senator Vance said it was so unworkable to be laughable. So that's where we're at. Pass the bill, she'll sign it.
I called it, Tim. Build the walls.
Senator, the question was, will you separate parents from their children, even if their kids are U.S. citizens?
He needs to stop staring directly to the camera.
My point is that we already have massive child separations thanks to Kamala Harris's open border.
But he had some good lines in there.
I accused Kamala Harris of inviting drug mules. I said that she enabled the Mexican drug cartels to operate freely in this country, and we know that they use children as drug mules, and it is a disgrace, and it has to stop. Look, I think what Tim said just doesn't pass the smell test. For 3 years, Kamala Harris went out bragging that she was going to undo Donald Trump's border policy. She did exactly that. We had a record number of illegal crossings. We had a record number of fentanyl coming into our country. And now that she's running for president, or a few months before, she says that somehow she got religion and cared a lot about a piece of legislation. The only thing that she did when she became the vice president, when she became the appointed border czar, was to undo 94 Donald Trump executive actions that opened the border. This problem
I don't know what's in
leading
those actions.
to massive
This is tough for me. I need a fucking
America. Parents who can't afford health care, schools that are overwhelmed. It's got to stop, and it will when Donald Trump is president again.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, what about our CBS News polling, which does show that a majority of Americans, more than 50%,
the border is a big
mass deportations?
Look,
wait, really?
We fix this issue with a bill that is necessary, but the issue on this is what happens when you don't want to solve it. You demonize it. And we saw this, and Senator Vance, and it surprises me on this, talking about and saying, I will create stories to bring attention to this. That vilified a large number of people who were here legally in the community of Springfield. The Republican governor said, it's not true, don't do it. There's consequences for this. There's consequences. We could come together. Senator Lankford did it. We could come together and solve this if we didn't let Donald Trump continue to make it an issue. And the consequences in Springfield were the governor had to send state law enforcement to escort kindergartners to school. I believe Senator Vance wants to solve this, but by standing with Donald Trump and not working together to find a solution, it becomes a talking point. And when it becomes a talking point like this, we dehumanize and villainize other human beings.
Tim, Governor,
he's getting
your
better.
Time is up. Senator, I'll give you 1 minute.
He's getting better. The pen was on fire for that one.
The governor has made the point, and I think as a sitting lawmaker, you know that Congress controls the purse strings and any funding. So you have said repeatedly that Donald Trump would, through executive action, solve this. Do you disagree that Congress controls the purse strings and would need to support many of the changes that you would actually want to implement? You have 1 minute.
Look, Margaret, first of all, the gross majority of what we need to do at the southern border is just empowering law enforcement to do their job. I've been to the southern border more than our border czar, Kamala Harris, has been, and it's actually heartbreaking because the Border Patrol agents, they just want to be empowered to do their job. Of course, additional resources would help, but most of this is about the president and the vice president empowering our law enforcement to say, if you try to come across cross the border illegally, you've got to stay in Mexico. You've got to go back through proper channels.
Hit a Mexican in the face, dude.
Brought up the community of Springfield, and he's very worried about the things that I've said in Springfield.
It's heartbreaking.
In Springfield, Ohio, and in communities all across this country, you've got schools that are overwhelmed. You've got hospitals that are overwhelmed. You have got housing that is totally unaffordable because we brought in millions of illegal immigrants to compete with Americans for scarce homes. The people that I'm most worried about in Springfield, Ohio, are the American citizens who have had their lives destroyed by Kamala Harris's open border. It is a disgrace, Tim. And I actually think, I agree with you. I think you want to solve this problem, but I don't think that Kamala Harris does.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, you have 1 minute to respond.
Yeah, well, it is law enforcement that asked for the bill. They helped craft it. They're the ones that supported it. That's because they know we need to do this. Look, this issue of continuing to bring this up, of not dealing with it, of blaming migrants for everything. On housing, we could talk a little bit about Wall Street speculators buying up housing and making them less affordable, but it becomes a blame. Look, this bill also gives the money necessary to adjudicate. I agree. It should not take 7 years for an asylum claim to be done. This bill gets it done in 90 days. Then you start to make a difference in this, and you start to adhere to what we know, American principles. I don't talk about my faith a lot, but Matthew 25:40 talks about
always
to the least amongst
verses.
us you do unto me. I think that's true of most Americans. They simply want order to it. This bill does it. It's funded. It's supported by the people who do it, and it lets us keep our dignity about how we treat other people.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have
You
a
got it
large
cooked on that
number
one.
of
I'll be
Haitian
honest with you.
migrants who have legal
That was a good.
status,
He's dropping Bible
temporary
verses.
protected status.
Margaret,
Nora?
but
Thank you,
relevant.
Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important
We're
because
going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
the rules were that
The
you guys
economy,
weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own
Thank you, Senator, for
leadership.
describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The
We want to
CBP
have...
One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to. Thank you for explaining the legal process. Nora?
Thank you, Margaret. The economy is a top concern for voters. Each of your campaigns has released an economic plan. So
I think they should just go longer. I think they should let them debate it out, but go longer.
Harris
I actually think
a plan that includes billions in tax credits for manufacturing, housing, and a renewed child tax credit. The Wharton School says your
what else do we have to do as
will
Americans?
increase
We should watch
the nation's
this.
deficit by $1.2 trillion. How would you pay for that without ballooning the deficit?
We're talking about deficits?
Yeah, thank you. And Kamala Harris and I do believe in the middle class because that's where we come
Let's
from.
go.
We both grew up in that. We
Neither of them have a good
so
answer
those
for
of you
this.
out there listening tonight, you're hearing a lot of stuff back and forth, and it's good. It's healthy. That's what this is supposed to happen. You should be listening. How's this going to impact me? The bold forward plan that Kamala Harris put out there is talking about this housing issue. The one thing is there's 3 million new houses proposed under this plan with down payment assistance on the front end to get you in a house. A house is much more than just an asset to be traded somewhere. It's foundational to where you're at. And then making sure that the things you buy every day, whether they be prescription drugs or other things, that there's fairness in that. Look, the $35 insulin is a good thing, but it costs $5 to make insulin. They were charging $800 before this law went into effect. As far as the housing goes, I've seen it in Minnesota. 12% more houses in Minneapolis, prices went down on rent 4%. It's working. And then making sure tax cuts go 4%. To the middle class. $6,000 child tax credit, we have one in Minnesota, reduces childhood poverty by 1/3. We save money in the long run, and we do the right thing for families. And then getting businesses off the ground. The law as it stands right now is $5,000 tax credit for small business, increasing that to $50,000. Now, this is a philosophical difference between us. Donald Trump made a promise, and I'll give you this. He kept it. He took folks to Mar-a-Lago, said, you're rich as hell, I'm going to give you a tax cut. He gave the tax cuts that predominantly went to the top class. What happened there was an $8 trillion increase in the national debt, the largest ever. Now he's proposing a 20% consumption or sales tax on everything we bring in. Everyone agrees, including businesses, it would be destabilizing it, it would increase inflation and potentially lead to a recession. Look, this is simple for you.
He's
Where
calling
are we
the
going?
tariff
Kamala Harris has said to do the things she wants to do. We'll just ask the wealthiest to pay their fair share. When you do that, our system works best. More people are participating.
I do
in it,
agree.
And folks
I do
have
agree.
the things that they need.
Senator, I want to give you a moment to respond on that. But similarly, the Wharton School has done an analysis of the Trump plan and says it would increase the nation's deficit by $5.8 trillion. My question is the same for you. How do you pay for all that without ballooning the deficit?
So
I'll give you 2
both the
minutes.
deficit.
Well, first of all, you're going to hear a lot from Tim Walz this evening, and you just heard it in the answer. A lot of what Kamala Harris proposes to do, and some of it, I'll be honest with you, it even sounds pretty good. Here's what you won't hear, is that Kamala Harris has already done it. Because she's been the vice president for 3.5 years. She
This is
had
the
the
line I was talking
opportunity
about.
to
This
enact
works.
all of these great policies.
This works.
And what she's actually
She
done
hasn't done it, but this
instead
works.
is drive the cost of food higher by 25%. Drive the cost of housing higher by about 60%.
I'm just telling you, it's a good line. It
Open the
works.
American southern border and make middle-class life unaffordable for a large number of Americans. If Kamala Harris has such great plans,
This is like
for how
their
to address
strongest
middle-class
line of attack.
problems, then she
Because
ought
people
to
feel
do
bad
them
about the last
now.
4 years.
Not when asking for a promotion, but in the job the American people gave her 3.5 years
But
ago.
she's not the
and
president.
the fact that she isn't tells you a lot about
It's
how
not her
much you can
administration.
trust her actual plans. Now, Donald Trump's economic plan is not just a plan, but it's also a record. A lot of those same economists attack Donald Trump's plans, and they have PhDs, but they don't have common sense and they don't have wisdom. Because Donald Trump's economic policies delivered the highest take-home pay in a generation in this country, 1.5% inflation, and to boot, peace and security all over the world. So when people say that Donald Trump's economic
I'm
plan
sick of
doesn't
this.
make sense,
Every
I say
country had
look
low
at the
inflation
record.
before
He
COVID.
delivered rising take-home pay for American workers. Now, Tim admirably admits that they want to undo the Trump tax cuts. But if you look at what was so different about Donald Trump's tax cuts, even from previous Republican tax cut plans, is that a lot of those resources went to giving more take-home pay to middle-class and working-class Americans. It was passed in 2017, and you saw an American economic boom unlike we've seen in a generation in this country. That is a record that I'm proud to run on, and we're going to get back to that common sense wisdom so that you can afford to live the American dream again. I know a lot of you are struggling. I know a lot of you are worried about paying the bills.
This part
it's
hits,
going
though.
to stop when Donald Trump brings back common sense to this country.
Governor, do you want to respond to that? What has Kamala Harris done for the middle class?
Yeah, well, Kamala Harris's day one was Donald Trump's failure on COVID that led to the collapse of our economy. We were already before COVID in a manufacturing recession, but 10 million people out of work, largest percentage since the Great Depression. 9 million jobs closed on that. That was day one. Whether it was the infrastructure
Day
act or other
one!
things we moved. Now, you made a question about experts, said this. I've made a note of this. Economists can't be trusted. Science can't be trusted. National security folks can't be trusted. Look, if you're going to be president, you don't have all the answers. Donald Trump believes he does. My pro tip of the day is this. If you need heart surgery, listen to the people at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, not Donald Trump. And the same thing goes with this. And I ask you out there, teachers, nurses, truck drivers, or whatever, how is it fair that you're paying your taxes every year and Donald Trump hasn't paid any federal tax in the last 15 years, and the last year as president? That's what's wrong with the system. There's a way around it, and he's bragged about that. We're just asking for fairness in it, and that's all you want.
You have a minute.
Governor, you say trust the experts. But those same experts for 40 years said that if we shipped our manufacturing base off to China, we'd get cheaper goods. They lied about that. They said if we shipped our industrial base off to other countries, to Mexico and elsewhere, it would make the middle class stronger. They were wrong about that. They were wrong about the idea that if we made America less self-reliant, less productive in our own nation, that it would somehow make us better off, and they were wrong about it. And for the first time in a generation, Donald Trump had the wisdom and the courage to say to that bipartisan consensus, we're not doing it anymore. We're bringing American manufacturing back. We're unleashing American energy. We're going to make more of our own stuff. And this isn't just an economic issue. I mean, I've got 3 beautiful little kids at home, 7, 4, and 2, and I love them very much, and I hope they're in bed right now. But look, so many of the drugs, the pharmaceuticals that we put in the body bodies of our children are manufactured by nations that hate us. This has to stop, and we're not going to stop it by listening to experts. We're going to stop it by listening to common sense wisdom, which is what Donald Trump governed on.
Senator, your time is up. Governor Walz, can you address that? I mean, voters say they trust Donald Trump on the economy more. Why?
Well, if you're listening tonight and you want billionaires to get tax cuts, you heard what the numbers were. Look, I'm a union guy on this. I'm not a guy who wanted to ship things overseas, but I understand that, look, we produce soybeans and corn. We need to have fair trading partners. That's something that we believe in. I think the thing that most concerns me on this is Donald Trump was the guy who created the largest trade deficit in American history with China. So the rhetoric is good. Much of what the senator said right there, I'm in agreement with him on this. I watched it happen too. I watched it to my communities, and we talked about that. But we had people undercutting the right to collectively bargain. We had right to work states made it more difficult. We had companies that were willing to ship it over, and we saw people profit. Folks that are venture capital in some cases, putting money into companies that were overseas. We're in agreement that we bring those home. The issue is Donald Trump is talking about it. Kamala Harris has a record, 250,000 more manufacturing jobs just out of the IRA.
May I respond to that?
Yes.
So appreciate that. So if you notice, what Governor Walz just did is he said, first of all, Donald Trump has to listen to the experts. And then when he acknowledged that the experts screwed up, he said, well, Donald Trump didn't do nearly as good of a job as the statistics show that he did. So what Tim Walz is doing, and I honestly, Tim, I think you got a tough job.
There's experts that'll say either direction on things like exporting jobs to China. There's an expert that'll tell you it's a good idea, and an expert that won't.
You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver lower inflation, which of course he did, and then you simultaneously got to defend Kamala Harris's atrocious economic record, which has made gas, groceries, and housing unaffordable for American citizens. I was raised by a woman who would sometimes go into medical debt so that she could put food on the table in our household. I know what it's like to not be able to afford the things that you need to
massive
afford.
deficits.
We can
one
do
from
so
Trump,
much
one from
better.
Biden.
To all of
then
you
we
watching,
got inflation.
We can get back to an America that's
why don't we just ignore it?
We just got to get back to common sense economic principles.
I hope we have a conversation on health care then.
Senator, Governor.
Please.
Thank you. Margaret?
We have a lot to get to ahead, gentlemen, on many topics. But right now, I want to talk about personal qualifications. The vice president is often the last voice the president hears before making consequential decisions. We want to ask you about your leadership qualities. Governor Walz.
It was bad vibes.
You said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that service. I joined the National Guard at 17, worked on family farms, and then I used the GI Bill to become a teacher, passionate about it, a young teacher. My first year out, I got the opportunity in the summer of '89 to travel to China. 35 years ago, be able to do that. I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams.
Tim Walz is a Chinese sleeper agent?
And we would go back and forth to China. The issue for that was
Tim
to try
Walz
and learn.
is a
Now,
Chinese
look,
sleeper agent personally on the payroll of Xi Jinping himself?
Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect. And I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. Those same people elected me to Congress for 12 years. And in Congress, I was one of the most bipartisan people, working on things like farm bills that we got done, working on veterans benefits. And then the people of Minnesota were able to elect me to governor twice. So look, my commitment has been from the beginning to make sure that I'm there for the people, to make sure that I get this right. I will say more than anything, many times I will talk a lot, I will get caught up in the rhetoric, but being there, the impact it made, the difference it made in my life, I learned a lot about China. I hear the critiques of this. I would make the case that Donald Trump should have come on one of those trips with us. I guarantee you he wouldn't be praising Xi Jinping about COVID, and I guarantee you he wouldn't start a trade war that he ends up losing. So this is about trying to understand the world. It's about trying to Do the best you can for your community. And then it's putting yourself out there and letting your folks understand what it is. My commitment, whether it be through teaching, which I was good at, or whether it was being a good soldier or was being a good member of Congress, those are the things that I think are the values that people care about.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this is I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said. So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
I must have missed this whole thing. I don't know.
Senator Vance,
when he claimed this.
In 2016, you called your running mate Donald Trump unfit for the nation's highest office, and you said he could be America's Hitler. I know you've been asked many times, and you've said you regret those comments and explained you then voted for Donald Trump in 2020. But the Washington Post reported new messages last week in which you also disparaged Trump's economic record while he was president, writing to someone in 2020, quote, Trump thoroughly failed to deliver his economic populism. You're now his running mate, and you've shifted many of your policy stances to align with his.
These questions are brutal.
If you become
they
vice
fucking
president,
dug deep on these candidates,
Americans
bro.
trust that you will give Donald Trump the advice he needs to hear?
They found text.
And not just the advice he wants to hear. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, Margaret, because I've always been open. And sometimes, of course, I've disagreed with the president, but I've also been extremely open about the fact that I was wrong about Donald Trump. I was wrong, first of all, because I believed some of the media stories that turned out to be dishonest fabrications of his record. But most importantly, Donald Trump delivered for the American people. Rising wages, rising take-home pay.
I feel like he delivered for you getting elected as senator in 2021.
A lot of things, frankly, that I didn't think you'd be able to deliver on. And yeah, when you screw up, when you misspeak, when you get something wrong and you change your mind, you ought to be honest with the American people about it. It's one of the reasons, Margaret, why I've done so many interviews is because I think it's important to actually explain to the American people where I come down on the issues and what changed. Now, you pointed out some messages from 2020. Margaret, I've been extremely consistent that I think there were a lot of things that we could have done better in the Trump administration the first round if Congress was doing its job. I strongly believe, and I've been a United States senator, that Congress is not just a high-class debating society. It's not just a forum for senators and congressmen to whine about problems. It's a forum to govern. So there were a lot of things on the border, on tariffs, for example, where I think that we could have done so much more if the Republican Congress and the Democrats in Congress had been a little bit better about how they govern the country. They were so obsessed with impeaching Donald Trump, they couldn't actually govern. And I want to talk about this tariff issue in particular, Margaret, because Tim just accused this of being a national sales tax. Look, the one thing, and you're probably surprised to hear me praising Joe Biden, but the one thing that Joe Biden did is he continued some of the Trump tariffs that protected American manufacturing jobs. And it's the one issue, the most pro-worker part of the Biden administration, it's the one issue where Kamala Harris has run away from Joe Biden's record. Think about this. If you're trying to employ slave laborers in China at $3 a day, you're going to do that and undercut the wages of American workers unless our country stands up for itself and says you're not accessing our markets unless you're paying middle-class Americans a fair wage.
Senator, your time is up. Nora?
Thank you. Now to the issue of reproductive rights. Governor Walz, after Roe versus Wade was overturned,
focused
you signed
tariffs
a bill
on certain Chinese industries.
Minnesota one of the least restrictive
I think there's a strong case that you can make sense for that. 100% tariff on all goods.
That you believe
that's
abortion,
insane.
Quote, in the
all our allies are going to fucking retaliate.
Fine.
They're going to have their own tariffs.
Is that what you support?
It's that's
not
insane.
What the bill says, but look,
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
This issue is what's on everyone's mind.
Fuck, I missed the question.
Donald Trump put this all into motion. He brags about
abortion.
How great
abortion.
it was
Abortion. Okay.
That he put the judges in and overturned Roe versus Wade. 52 years of personal autonomy. And then he tells us, oh, we send it to the states. It's a beautiful thing. Amanda Zaworski would disagree with you on it's a beautiful thing. A young bride in Texas waiting for their child.
Dude, I hate when either of them do this. I hate this.
A tear in the membrane.
I hate we have to add a human story to every question.
At that point needs to be decided by the doctor. And that would have been an abortion. But in Texas, that would have put them in legal jeopardy.
This is a politician thing, but I just don't like it.
Got sepsis, nearly dies, and now she may have difficulty having children. Or in Kentucky, Hadley Duvall, a 12-year-old child raped and impregnated by her stepfather. Those are horrific. Now, when got asked about that, Senator Vance said 2 wrongs don't make a right. There is no right in this. So in Minnesota, what we did was restore Roe versus Wade. We made sure that we put women in charge of their health care. But look, this is not where, if you don't know Amanda or a Hadley, you soon will. Their Project 2025 is going to have a registry of pregnancies. It's going to make it more difficult, if not impossible, to get contraception and limit access, if not eliminate access to infertility treatments. For so many of you out there listening, me included, infertility treatments are why I have a child. That's nobody else's business, but those things are being proposed. And the catch-all on this is, well, the states will decide what's right for Texas might not be right for Washington. That's not how this works. This is basic human right.
This is a good one. I mean, yeah.
Maternal mortality skyrocket
the whole
in Texas,
take it back to the states thing is just bullshit. It doesn't.
This is about
what it's saying is we're going to state by state try to roll it back where we can win elections.
We trust women. We trust doctors.
The only reason to bring it back to the states, Roe v. Wade was popular for 50 years.
A federal pregnancy monitoring agency?
It's like it's so avoided. Like, oh, we're not trying to get rid of it. We're just trying to get back to the states.
Americans care about it. And I know a lot of Americans don't agree with everything that I've ever said on this topic. And you know, I grew up in a working class family in a neighborhood where I knew a lot of young women who had unplanned pregnancies and decided to terminate those pregnancies. Every question they're both opening with, by the way, I'm working class. Like they didn't have any other options. And you know, one of them is actually very dear to me, and I know she's watching tonight. And I love you. And she told me something a couple years ago that she felt like if she hadn't had that abortion, that it would have destroyed her life because she was in an abusive relationship. And I think that what I take from that as a Republican who proudly wants to protect innocent life in this country, who proudly wants to protect the vulnerable, is that my party, we've got to do so much better of a job at earning the American people's trust back on this issue where they frankly just don't trust us. And I think that's one of the things that Donald Trump and I are endeavoring to do. I want us as a Republican Party to be pro-family in the fullest sense of the word. I want us to support fertility treatments. I want us to make it easier for moms to afford to have babies. I want it to make it easier for young families to afford a home so they can afford a place to raise that family. And I think there's so much that we can do on the public policy front just to give women more options. Now, of course, Donald Trump has been very clear on the abortion policy specifically, that we have a big country and it's diverse. And California has a different viewpoint on this than Georgia. Georgia has a different viewpoint from Arizona. And the proper way to handle this, as messy as democracy sometimes is to let voters make these decisions, let the individual states make their abortion policy. And I think that's what makes the most sense in a very big, a very diverse, and let's be honest, sometimes a very, very messy and divided country.
Governor, would you like to respond and also answer the question about restrictions?
Yeah, well, the question got asked and Donald Trump made the accusation that wasn't true about Minnesota. Well, let me tell you about this idea that there's diverse states. There's a young woman named Amber Thurman. She happened to be in Georgia, a restrictive state. Because of that, she had to travel a long distance to North Carolina to try and get her care. Amber Thurman died in that journey back and forth. The fact of the matter is, how can we as a nation say that your life and your rights, as basic as the right to control your own body, is determined on geography? There's a very real chance had Amber Thurman lived in Minnesota, she would be alive today.
Good answer.
That's why the restoration of Roe versus Wade. When you listen to Vice President Harris talk about this subject and you hear me talk about it, you hear us talking exactly the same. Donald Trump is trying to figure out how to get the political right of this. I agree with a lot of what Senator Vance said about what's happening. His running mate, though, does not, and that's the problem.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, let me ask you about that. He mentioned, it was, I think, referring to a national ban. In the past, you have supported a federal ban on abortion after 15 weeks. In fact, you said if someone can't support legislation like that, quote, you are making the United States the most barbaric pro-abortion regime anywhere in the entire world. My question is, why have you changed your position?
Well, Nora, first of all, I never supported a national ban. I did when I was running for Senate in 2022 talk about setting some minimum national standard. For example, we have a partial birth abortion ban in place in this country at the federal level. I don't think anybody's trying to get rid of that, or at least I hope not, though I know that Democrats have taken a very radical pro-abortion stance. But Nora, you know, one of the things that changed is in the state of Ohio, we had a referendum in 2023, and the people of Ohio voted overwhelmingly, by the way, against my position.
I think this is Vance's weakest question area by far.
Winning back people's trust.
He seems so
young women
whack when he talks about abortion, bro.
So many young women also see an unplanned pregnancy
when
as
he's talking
something
about
that's
the border,
destroy their
he feels
livelihood,
confident,
destroy their education,
and I
destroy
think
their
people
relationships.
who don't follow the abortion are like are on, but on abortion,
and that's
he's
why
so
Donald
whack.
Trump and I are committed to pursuing pro-family policies, making child care more accessible, making fertility treatments more accessible, because we've got to do a better job at that, and that's what real leadership is.
Governor, your response.
I'm going to respond on the pro-abortion piece of that. No, we're not. We're pro-women. We're pro-freedom to make your own choice. We know what the implications are to not be that. Women having miscarriages, women not getting the care, physicians feeling like they may be prosecuted for providing that care. And as far as making sure that we're educating our children and giving them options, Minnesota's a state with one of the lowest teen pregnancy rates. We understand that too. We know that the options need to be available, and we make that true. We also make it, we're a top 3 state for the best place to raise children. But these two things to try and say that we're pro-children, but we don't like this, or you guys are pro-abortion, that's not the case at all. We are pro-freedoms for women to make their choices, and we're going, and Kamala Harris is making the case, to make options for children more affordable, a $6,000 child tax credit, but we're not going to base that on the backs of making someone like Amber Thurman drive 600 miles to try and get health care.
Senator?
May I respond to that? First of all, Governor, I agree with you. Amber Thurman should still be alive, and there are a lot of people who should still be alive, and I certainly wish that she was. And maybe you're free to disagree with me on this and explain this to me, but as I read the Minnesota law that you signed into law, the statute that you signed into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. That is, I think, whether you're pro-choice or pro-abortion, that is fundamentally barbaric. And that's why I use that word, Nora, is because some of what we've seen, do you want to force Catholic hospitals to perform abortions against their will? Because Kamala Harris has supported suing Catholic nuns to violate their freedom of conscience. We can be a big and diverse country where we respect people's freedom of conscience and make the country more pro-baby and pro-family.
Okay, we're talking about a nationwide law here.
Yes, Governor, please respond.
Look, this is one where there's always something there. This is a very simple proposition. These are women's decisions to make about their health care decisions, and the physicians who know best when they need to do this. Trying to distort the way a law is written to try and make a point, that's not it at all.
What was I wrong about, Governor? Please tell me, what was I wrong about?
That is not the way the law is written. Look, I've given I've given this advice on a lot of things, that getting involved, that's been misread, and it was fact-checked at the last debate. But the point on this is there's a continuation of these guys to try and tell women or to get involved. I use this line on this, just mind your own business on this. Things worked best when Roe versus Wade was in place. When we do a restoration of Roe,
we're going back and forth.
That doesn't preclude us from increasing funding for children. It doesn't increase us from making sure that once that child's born, like in Minnesota, they get meals, they get early childhood education, they get health care. So the hiding behind we're going to do all these other things when you're not proposing them in your budget, Kamala Harris is proposing them. She's proposing all those things to make life easier for families.
I asked a specific question, Governor. You gave me a slogan as a response.
It's not the case. It's not true. That's not what the law says. So they fact-checked it with President Trump.
Gentlemen, there's a lot to discuss. We have to move on. We're going to be right back with much more of the CBS News vice presidential debate in just a moment.
That was the worst smile I ever seen. We got a break. I got to see that again. And I thought, he's hitting him on trying to get a specific. Obviously, Tim Walz doesn't remember the exact specific of the law, so he's not trying to lock himself into an answer. But this smile is...
Gentlemen, there's a lot to discuss. We have to move on. We're going to be right...
5 years. Since 1979, we've been your primary source for Capitol Hill, providing balanced, unfiltered coverage of government, taking you to where the policies debated and decided, all with the support of America's cable companies. C-SPAN, 45 years and counting. powered by cable.
Friday nights, watch C-SPAN's
Cable,
2024
we love
campaign
it.
trail. A weekly discussion of how the presidential, Senate, and House
spirited debate
campaigns
thus
have
far.
progressed in the past week. Two reporters
Certainly
join
more
each week
policy
to talk about
focused.
the issues, messages, and events driving the week's political news, and to take a look at the week ahead. Watch C-SPAN's 2024
I think to their
campaign
audiences,
trail.
both are coming
Friday
off pretty
nights
good.
at 7 Eastern
To be
on
honest,
C-SPAN,
I doubt this is
online
going
at
to sway a lot of
c-span.org,
people, this debate.
Or download as a podcast on C-SPAN
This
Now, a
debate's
free
pretty.
mobile app, or wherever
It's
you
almost
get
kind
your
of in the weeds.
podcasts.
Oh yeah, we'll mute these ads. Let me make sure I got everything set here. We could also listen to Carl Weezer sing Redbone. I've got that on lock if we ever need it. But so far, I don't think it's a debate that's shifting a lot of hearts and minds because they're both hitting their party lines pretty accurate compared to how Kamala and Trump did where they veered off script. This is less messy. Vance is doing, are you better off than 4 years ago? Gas, grocery prices, border. Tim Walz is doing abortion. We rolled back Roe v. Wade, and most people hate it. Hate the rollback. And we had a border bill, and then Trump called Republican senators and told them to cancel it. That's the talking points they've all had. So they're kind of repeating. It's kind of like a refresher to people that are just watching debates.
Journal, your window.
Still a fucking. What was the China discrepancy? I didn't quite catch it. I don't know. There was one thing that Vance said that there was a straight up, I can easily fact check total lie, which said that we're getting more energy from China, which is insane. It's just we're not doing that. I know that's a lie. I know that. There's plenty of things that I have a smell test that are bad on. But I know for a fact we are just not doing that. And then also manufacturing. Yeah, manufacturing jobs are up and energy is up. We're producing more oil and natural gas than ever. The United States has added a full Saudi Arabia worth of output in the past 5 years. And manufacturing jobs are up. And again, manufacturing jobs were down going into COVID. Right around 1819 was almost the low, the absolute low of U.S. manufacturing jobs. So, those things are just not true. But I don't know about everything else. He's saying the Harris administration? Yeah, calling it the Harris administration is a bit disingenuous, too. As VP, neither of these two nor Harris now have much power.
The CBS
the VP doesn't do jack shit, really, City. Outside of helping the debate. Help, in the campaign. And on the wall side, I'm getting a little bit annoyed with every question having a human story, and then both saying, as a middle-class man, I grew up in a small town.
Welcome back to the CBS News vice presidential debate. We want to turn now to America's gun violence epidemic. The leading cause of death for children and teens in America is by firearms. Senator Vance, you oppose most gun legislation that Democrats claim would curb gun violence. You oppose red flag gun laws and legislation to ban certain semi-automatic rifles, including AR-15s. So let me ask you, earlier this year, for the first time, the parents of a school shooter were convicted of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Do you think holding parents responsible could curb mass shootings? I'll give you 2 minutes.
JD Vance and I have the same facial hair.
Case, I don't know the full details, but I certainly trust local law enforcement and local authorities to make those decisions. I think in some cases the answer is going to be yes, and in some cases the answer is going to be no. And the details really matter here, of course. For example, if a kid steals a gun, that's going to be different than if a parent hands over a gun knowing that their kid is potentially dangerous. But look, I want to just sort of speak as a father of 3 beautiful little kids, and our oldest is now in 2nd grade. And like a lot of parents, we send our kids to school with such hope and such joy and such pride at their little faces on the first day of school. And we know, unfortunately, that a lot of kids are going to experience this terrible epidemic of gun violence. And of course, our hearts go out to the families that are affected by this terrible stuff.
What a
and we
tone
do
shift.
have to do better. And I think that Governor Walz and I actually probably agree that we need to do better on this. The question is just how we actually do it. Now, here's something that really bothers me and worries me about this epidemic of violence. The gross majority, close to 90% in some of the statistics I've seen, of the gun violence in this country is committed with illegally obtained firearms. And while we're on that topic, we know that thanks to Kamala Harris's open border, we've seen a massive influx in the number of illegal guns run by the Mexican drug cartels. So that number, the amount of illegal guns in our country is higher today.
We do not have a shortage of guns in this country.
But what do we do?
We do not need to get more guns from Mexico. I promise you we got plenty of guns.
I say this not loving
the answer.
No,
dude, come on.
I don't want my kids to go to school in a school that feels unsafe or where there are visible signs of security. But I unfortunately think that we have to increase security in our schools. We have to make the doors lock better. We have to make the doors stronger. We've got to make the windows stronger. And of course, we've got to increase school resource officers, because the idea that we can magically wave a wand and take guns out of the hands of bad guys, it just doesn't fit with recent experience. So we've got to make our schools safer. And I think we've got to have some common sense bipartisan solutions.
You can do the gun buybacks.
Well,
you just pay for the guns and destroy them. It works. I mean, they've done it in like
I got a 17-year-old and
plenty of countries.
And he
Australia
witnessed
did
a shooting at a community center playing volleyball.
The bad guys.
Those things don't leave you. As a member of Congress, I sat in my office surrounded by dozens of the Sandy Hook parents, and they were looking at my 7-year-old picture on the wall. Their 7-year-old were dead, and they were asking us to do something. And look, I'm a hunter. I own firearms. The vice president is. We understand that the Second Amendment is there, but our first responsibility is to our kids to figure this out. In Minnesota, we've enacted enhanced red flag laws, enhanced background checks, and we can start to get data. But here's the problem. If we really want to solve this, we've got folks that won't allow research to be even done on gun violence. And this idea that we should just live with it, here's what I do think, that this is a good start to the conversation. I 100% believe
talk about like the
Senator
gun
Vance
lobby, the NRA. Talk about the money involved.
It's abhorrent and it breaks your heart. I agree with that, but that's not far enough when we know there are things that worked. I've spent time in Finland and seen some Finnish schools. They don't have this happen, even though they have a high gun ownership rate in the country. There are reasonable things that we can do to make a difference. It's not infringing on your Second Amendment. And the idea to have some of these weapons out there, it just doesn't make any sense. Kamala Harris, as an attorney general, worked on this issue. She knows that it's there. No one's trying to scaremonger and say we're taking your guns, but I ask all of you out there, do you want your schools hardened to look like a fort? Is that what we have to go when we know there's countries around the world that their children aren't practicing these types of drills? They're being kids. We owe it to them to get a fix. These are things that shouldn't be that difficult. You can still keep your firearms, and we can make a difference. We have to. If you're listening
That's a good
tonight,
answer. Man,
this
I thought
breaks your heart.
We're gonna get stronger
Senator?
doors.
Tim, first of all, I didn't know that your 17-year-old witnessed a shooting.
Fucking answer.
I'm sorry about that, and I hope that he's doing okay.
so.
Christ have mercy. It is awful. And I appreciate what Tim said actually about Finland, because I do think it illustrates some of the frankly weird differences between our own country's gun violence problem and Finland. Is okay, first of all, we have way higher rates of mental health abuse or mental health substance abuse. We have way higher rates of depression, way higher rates of anxiety. We unfortunately have a mental health crisis in this country that I really do think that we need to get to the root causes of, because I don't think it's the whole reason why we have such a bad gun violence problem, but I do think it's a big piece of it. Another driver of the gun violence epidemic, especially that affecting our kids, it doesn't earn as many headlines, but is the terrible gun violence problem in a lot of our big cities. And this is why we have to empower law enforcement to arrest the bad guys, put them away, and take gun offenders off the streets.
Please stop saying
I think
bad
it's a whole
guys.
host of things that we can do here, but I do think in our schools we've got to talk about more security.
Senator, thank you. Governor, you previously opposed an assault weapons ban, but only later in your political career did you change your position. Why?
Yeah, I sat in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was the NRA guy for a long time. They used to teach gun safety.
I think he misspoke.
I'm of an age where My shotgun was in my car so I could pheasant hunt after football practice. That's not where we live today. And several things I want to mention on this is talking about cities and where it's at. The number one where the most firearm deaths happen in Minnesota are rural suicides. And we have an epidemic of children getting guns and shooting themselves. And so we have, and we should look at all of the issues. Making sure folks have health care and all that, but I want to be very careful. This idea of stigmatizing mental health, just because you have a mental health issue doesn't mean you're violent. And I think what we end up doing is we start looking for a scapegoat. Sometimes it just is the guns. It's just the guns, and there are things that you can do about it. But I do think that this is one, and I think this is a healthy conversation. I think there's a capacity to find solutions on this that work, protect Second Amendment, protect our children. That's our priority.
Gentlemen, thank you. Margaret?
Thank you, Nora. Let's turn now to the top contributor.
I mean, I got it.
to
It's like the biggest
inflation,
difference between us and other
the high
countries is
cost
we
of
have
housing and rent.
insane amounts of guns per capita.
There's a shortage of more than 4 million homes in the United States, and that contributes to the high housing prices. Governor Walz, the Harris campaign promises a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and a $10,000 tax credit. They also promise to build 3 million new homes. Where are you building these homes, and won't handing out that kind of money just drive up prices higher?
No, it's not handing out. We have, first, let me say this issue of housing, and I think those of you listening on this, the problem we've had is that we've got a lot of folks that see housing as another commodity. It can be bought up, it can be shifted, it can be moved around. Those are not folks living in those houses. Those of you listening tonight, that house is a big deal. I bought and owned one house in my life. My mom still lives in the house where I was. And when I think of a house, I'm thinking of Christmas services after midnight mass where you go with your family. We need to make it more affordable. And one of the things, as I said, this program that the Vice President is pushing forward and bringing a new way of approaching this is something we're doing in Minnesota from that lead. We in the state invested in making sure our housing was the biggest investment that we'd ever made in housing. It starts to make it easier. We cut some of the red tape. Local folks, look, we can't do it at the federal level, but local folks make it easier to build those homes. And then that down payment assistance.
I mean, a huge part of it is how difficult it is to build. You just cannot build houses in America easily.
Using the GI Bill was one thing.
It's an insane amount of red tape.
Home loan, the big thing
and then local councils block everything that's not,
have to pay the down payment.
A beautiful
those are things that make it
luxury
apartment. Pay it back.
It's all yes in my backyard.
Those are things that we know in the long run, the appreciated value, the generational wealth that's created from it. And I will give Minneapolis.
I don't think down payment assistance is a good idea, but it is a small credit in the grand scheme of things.
We've seen a 12% increase in stock because we've put some of these things in, and we're implementing a state program to make sure we give some of that down payment assistance. We get it back from people because here's what we know. People with stable housing end up with stable jobs. People with stable housing have their kids able to get to school. All of those things in the long run end up saving our money. And that's the thing that I think we should be able to find some common ground in, but we can't blame immigrants for the only reason. That's not the case that's happening in many cities. The fact of the matter is that we don't have enough naturally affordable housing, but we can make sure that the government's there to help kickstart it, create that base.
Governor, your time is up. Senator Vance, as far as your campaign's position, the promise is to seize federal lands to build homes, remove regulation, provide tax breaks, and cut back on immigration, which you say pushes up prices. Where are you going to build all the new homes you're promising, and what part of any of this plan will provide immediate relief? You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, Tim just said something that I agree with. We don't want to blame immigrants for higher housing prices, but we do want to blame Kamala Harris for letting in millions of illegal aliens into this country, which does drive up costs, Tim. 25 million illegal aliens competing with Americans for scarce homes is one of the most significant drivers of home prices in the country. It's why we have massive increases in home prices that have happened right alongside massive increases in illegal alien populations under Kamala Harris's leadership. Now, Tim just mentioned a bunch of ideas. Now, some of those ideas I actually think are halfway decent, and some of them I disagree with. But the most important thing here is Kamala Harris is not running as a newcomer to politics. She is
He's going back to this line. Again, this is the strongest line.
If she wants to enact all of these policies to make housing more affordable, I invite her to use the office that the American people already gave her, not sit around and campaign and do nothing while Americans find the American dream of homeownership completely unaffordable. Now, you asked, Margaret, what would immediately change the equation for American citizens if you lower energy prices? As Donald Trump says, drill, baby,
energy
drill.
prices are so fucking low.
Aside from illegal
they
immigration,
are so low right now.
If a truck driver's paying 40% more for diesel, then the lumber he's delivering to the job site to build a house is also going to become a lot more expensive. If we open up American energy, you will get immediate pricing relief for American citizens, not, by the way, just in housing, but in a whole host of other economic
compared to the whole rest of the world, bro. Outside of Saudi Arabia, we have the cheapest gas.
Seconds there. Do you want to answer?
Can I have it?
Where, Governor, we will get to you in a moment. But Senator, where are you going to seize the federal lands? Can you clarify?
Well, what Donald Trump has said is we have a lot of federal lands that aren't being used for anything. They're not being used for a national park. They're not being used, and they could be places where we build a lot of housing. And I do think that we should be opening up building in this country. We have a lot of land that could be used. We have a lot of Americans that need homes. We should be kicking out illegal immigrants who are competing for those homes, and we should be building more homes for the American citizens.
We can't build a bunch of land or like houses in Yellowstone, bro.
Governor,
the houses have to be built in the cities people want to live in.
Vice President,
we need higher density housing. We need.
Well, of course, that's not true. And again, you have facts. I guess we agreed not to fact check.
People aren't going to live fucking 100 miles from anything.
Donald Trump left office, but it's again blaming and not trying to find the solution. I was going to ask, though, on this question, are we going to drill and build houses in the same federal land? And I think when people hear federal lands, these are really important pieces of land. Now, Minnesota doesn't have a lot of federal lands. I know in the western part of the countries we do. There's not a lot of federal lands in and around Minneapolis, for example. So the issue is I don't understand the federal lands issue unless we see this, and I worry about this as someone who cares deeply about our national parks and our federal lands. Look, Minnesota, we protect these things. We've got about 20% of the world's fresh water. These lands protect. They're there for a reason. They belong to all of us. But again, this is when you view housing and you view these things as commodities. Like, there's a chance to make money here. Let's take this federal land and let's sell it to people for that. I think there's better ways to do this. We've seen it in Minnesota. We're able to refurbish some of these houses. We're able to make some investments. That gets people in. And I'm still on the fact on this. Economists, Senator Vance, you said you don't like the economists. Which economists are saying that it is immigrants that's adding to the cost?
Governor, your time is up. But Senator, on that point, I'd like for you to clarify. There are many contributing factors to high housing costs. What evidence do you have that migrants are part of this problem?
Well, there's a Federal Reserve study that we're happy to share after the debate. We'll put it up on social media, actually, that really drills down on the connection between increased levels of migration, especially illegal immigration, and higher housing prices. Now, of course, Margaret, that's not the entire driver of higher housing prices. It's also the regulatory regime of Kamala Harris. Look, we are a country of builders. We're a country of doers. We're a country of explorers. But we increasingly have a federal administration that makes it harder to develop our resources, makes it harder to build things, and wants to throw people in jail for not doing everything exactly as Kamala Harris says they have to do. And what that means is that you have a lot of people who would love to build homes who aren't able to build homes. I actually agree with Tim Walz. We should get out of this idea of housing as a commodity. But the thing that has most turned housing into a commodity is giving it away to millions upon millions of people who have no legal right to be here.
What are the federal regulations? I deal with this as a governor.
You can very quickly reply.
I'm sorry. I get this as a governor, and I don't necessarily disagree with that in some cases, many of those are local, many of them are state. I don't know which ones are federal, but I think whenever we talk regulations, people think they can get rid of them. I think you want to be able to get out of your house in a fire. I think you want to make sure that it's fireproof and those types of things. So which are the regulations? Because the vice president's not responsible for those. Congress writes those.
Governor, thank you. Gentlemen, we have a lot to get to. You're passionate about the housing crisis, I can tell. But Nora?
Thank you. One of the top problems facing Americans is the high cost of health care. Senator Vance, at the last
I know we have a lot to get to, but I want to hear this. I actually want to hear these back and forth.
Replacing the Affordable Care Act. In response,
Meredith keeps saying we have a lot to get to till we have like 1 minute left.
Concepts of a plan. Since then, Senator, you've talked about changing how chronically ill Americans get health insurance.
I think let them talk,
Can you explain how that would work? And can you guarantee that Americans with pre-existing conditions won't pay more? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, of course, we're going to cover Americans with pre-existing conditions. In fact, a lot of my family members have gotten health care.
In Appalachia?
I believe, members of my family actually got private health insurance, at least for the first time, switched off of Medicaid onto private insurance for the first time under Donald Trump's leadership. And I think that, a lot of people have criticized this concepts of a plan remark. Look, it's very simple common sense. I think as Tim Walz knows from 12 years in Congress, you're not going to propose a 900-page bill standing on a debate stage. It would bore everybody to tears, and it wouldn't actually mean anything because part of this is the give and take of bipartisan negotiation. Now, when Donald Trump was actually president, and again, he has a record to be proud of, prescription drugs fell in 2018 for the first time in a very long time. Under Kamala Harris's leadership, prescription drugs are up about 7%. Under Donald Trump's entire 4 years, they were up about 1.5%. He introduced pricing transparency. Think about healthcare. You go into a hospital, you try to buy something, and nobody knows what it actually costs. That price transparency will actually give American consumers a little bit more choice and will also drive down costs. And we talked about, the reinsurance regulations is what I was talking about.
I think they're both going to be like
Trump
Band-Aids
said
solutions
that if we
here.
allow states to experiment a little bit on how to cover both the chronically ill but the non-chronically ill, it's not just a plan. He actually implemented some of these regulations when he was president of the United States. And I think you can make a really good argument that it salvaged Obamacare, which was doing disastrously until Donald Trump came along. And I think this is an important point about President Trump. Of course, you don't have to agree with everything that President Trump has ever said or ever done. But when Obamacare was crushing under the weight of its own regulatory burden and health care costs, Donald Trump could have destroyed the program. Instead, he worked in a bipartisan way to ensure that Americans had access to affordable care.
People
it's
liked
not
it.
Perfect,
That's why,
of course, and there's so much more that we can do. But I think that Donald Trump has earned the right to put in place some better health care policies. He's earned it because he did it successfully the first time.
Governor?
All right, here's where being an old guy gives you some history. I was there at the creation of the ACA. And the reason it was so important is I come from a major healthcare state, home of the Mayo Clinic, home to Medical Alley, 3M, Medtronic, all of those. We understand healthcare. It's why we're ranked first on affordability and accessibility and quality of healthcare. And so what I know is under Kamala Harris, more people are covered than they have before. And those of you listening, this is critical to you. Now, Donald Trump all of a sudden wants to go back and remember this. He ran on the first thing he was going to do on day one was to repeal Obamacare. On day one, he tried to sign an executive order to repeal the ACA. He signed on to a lawsuit to repeal the ACA, but lost at the Supreme Court. And he would have repealed the ACA had it not been for the courage of John McCain to save that bill.
Damn,
now,
good memory.
Fast forward, what that means to you is you lose your pre-existing conditions. If you're sitting at home and you got asthma, too bad. If you're a woman, probably not. Broke your foot during football, might kick you out. Your kids get kicked out when they're 26. Kamala Harris negotiated drug prices for the first time with Medicare. We have 10 drugs that will come online, the most common ones that'll be there. But look, this issue, and when Donald Trump said, I've got a concept of a plan, it cracked me up as a fourth grade teacher because my kids would have never given me that. But what Senator Vance just explained might be worse than a concept, because what he explained is pre-Obamacare. And I'll make this as simple as possible because I have done this for a long time. What they're saying is, if you're healthy, why should you be paying more? So what they're going to do is let insurance companies pick who they insure, because guess what happens? You pay your premium, it's not much. They figure they're not going to have to pay out to you. But those of you a little older, gray, got cancer, you're going to get kicked out of it. That's why the system didn't work. Kamala Harris will protect and enhance the ACA.
Governor, thank you. Senator, you have not yet explained how you would protect people with pre-existing conditions or laid out that plan.
Well, look, we currently have laws and regulations in place right now that protect people with pre-existing conditions. We want to keep those regulations in place, but we also want to make the health insurance marketplace function a little bit better. Now, what Governor Walz just said is actually not true. A lot of what happened and the reason that Obamacare was crushing under its own weight is that a lot of young and healthy people were leaving the exchanges. Donald Trump actually helped address that problem, and he did so in a way that preserved people's access to coverage who had pre-existing conditions. But again, something that these guys do is they make a lot of claims about if Donald Trump becomes president, all of these terrible consequences are going to ensue. But in reality, Donald Trump was president. Inflation was low. Take-home pay was higher. And he saved the very program from a Democratic administration that was collapsing and would have collapsed absent his leadership. He did his job, which is govern in a bipartisan way and get results, not just complain about problems, but actually solve them.
Governor, did enrollment under the Affordable Care Act go up under the Trump administration?
It's higher now that we've seen it go up. Look, people are using it. The system works. And the question about this of young people or whatever, that's the individual mandate piece of this. And Republicans fought tooth and nail saying, well, Americans should be free to do this. Well, then what happens is...
So you think the individual mandate's a good idea?
You shrink. I think the idea of making sure the risk pool is broad enough to cover everyone, that's the only way insurance works. When it doesn't, it collapses. You are asking pre-ACA where we get people out. Look, people know that they need to be on health care. People expect it to be there. And when we are able to make it, and we are making it this way, when we incentivize people to be in the market, when we help people who might not be able to afford it get there, and we make sure then when you get sick and old,
he
it's
jimmed
there for
the
you.
camera.
Because I heard people say, "Well, I don't want to buy into
He's
Medicare."
jimming the
Good luck
camera.
buying health care once you get past 70. So look, the ACA works. We can continue to do better. Kamala Harris did that. The way she made everything better was negotiating those 10 drugs on Medicare for the first time in American history.
Thank you. Margaret?
Can I address that?
I apologize. We're out of time. We have a number of subjects to discuss. Margaret?
Let's talk about families in America. There is a
We have a lot to get to. We have a lot to get to.
Country, and the United States is one of the very few developed countries in the world without a national paid leave program for new parents. Governor Walz, you've said that if Democrats win both the White House and Congress, this is a day one priority for you. How long should employers be required to pay workers while they are home taking care of their newborns? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, that's negotiable, and that's what Congress works. But here's what the deal is. Americans sitting out there right now, you may work for a big company. Look, we're home in Minnesota to some of the largest Fortune 500 companies. Kamala Harris knows that in California. Those companies provide paid family and medical leave. One is, I think they're moral and they think it's a good thing, but it also keeps their employees healthy. We in Minnesota passed a paid family and medical leave. You have a child, and I had to go back to work 5 days after my kids were born. This allows you to stay home a certain amount of time. What we know is that gets the child off to a better start, the family works better, we stay in their employers, we get more consistency in that. So Kamala Harris has made it a priority. We implemented it in Minnesota and we see growth. That's how you become a pro-business state. But the negotiations on it, and here's the issue, those big companies are able to offer it. Those of you out there who don't have it, just imagine what happens if you get cancer or your child gets sick. We know what happens. You end up staying home. In some places, that means no paycheck because you've got no protection on that. This is the case of an economy that Donald Trump has set for the wealthiest amongst us. He's willing to give those tax breaks to the wealthiest. He's willing to say, bust those unions up, do whatever. What we're saying is the economy works best when it works for all of us. And so a paid family medical leave program, and I will tell you, go to the families or go to the businesses and ask them. As far as childcare on this, you have to take it at both the supply and the demand side. You can't expect the most important people in our lives to take either our children or our parents to get paid the least amount of money. And we have to make it easier for folks to be able to get into that business and then to make sure that folks are able to pay for that. We were able to do it in Minnesota, and I'm still telling you this. We were listed as the best state. We're still in crisis on this. A federal program of paid family and medical leave and help
Minnesota
with this
ad
will enhance our workforce, enhance our families, and make it easier to have the children that you want.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, do you support a national paid leave program? And if so, for how long should employers be mandated to pay their employees while they are home taking care of their newborn? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, first of all, Margaret, a number of my Republican colleagues and some Democrats, too, have worked on this issue. And I think there is a bipartisan solution here because a lot of us care about this issue. I mean, look, I speak from this very personally because I'm married to a beautiful woman who is an incredible mother to our 3 beautiful kids, but is also a very, very brilliant corporate litigator. And I'm so proud of her. But being a working mom, even for somebody with all of the advantages of my wife, is extraordinarily difficult. And it's not just difficult from a policy perspective. She actually had access to paid family leave because she worked for a bigger company. But the cultural pressure on young families and especially young women, I think makes it really hard for people to choose the family model they want. A lot of young women would like to go back to work immediately. Some would like to spend a little time home with the kids. Some would like to spend longer at home with the kids. We should have a family care model that makes choice possible.
I feel like most don't want to come back to work immediately after just giving birth.
Between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris's approach. I mean, look,
he said a lot of women and a few want to take a couple of days off.
Family leave right now.
That was crazy. I'm pretty sure most people that just had a kid don't want to immediately go back to work.
These programs only go to one kind of childcare model. Let's say you'd like your church maybe to help you out with childcare. Maybe you live in a rural area or an urban area and you'd like to get together with families in your neighborhood to provide childcare in the way that makes the most sense. You don't get access to any of these federal monies. We want to promote choice in how we deliver family care and how we promote childcare because look,
we're going to give federal money to churches?
And, you know, of course, Tim and I have been on the campaign trail a lot the past 7 or 8 weeks. And one of the biggest complaints I hear from young families is people who feel like they don't have options, like they're choosing between going to work or taking care for their kids. That is an incredible burden to put on American families. We're the only country that does it. I think we could do a heck of a lot better.
Senator, thank you. You have also said, Senator Vance, many things about the American family. The Federal Reserve says parents will spend nearly as much on child care as they do on housing each month. So I want to get your thoughts on this. President Trump recently said, as much as child care is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kinds of numbers we'll be taking in. Is President Trump committed to the $5,000 per child tax credit that you have described? You have 1 minute.
Well, what President Trump said, Margaret, I just want to defend my running mate here a little bit, is that we're going to be taking in a lot of money by penalizing companies for shipping jobs overseas and penalizing countries who employ slave laborers and then ship their products back into our country and undercut the wages of American workers. It's the heart of the Donald Trump economic plan. Cut taxes for American workers and American families. Cut taxes for businesses that are hiring and building companies in the United States of America, but penalize companies and countries that are shipping jobs overseas. That's the heart of the economic proposal. And I think what President Trump is saying is that when we bring in this additional revenue with higher economic growth, we're going to be able to provide paid family leave, child care options that are viable and workable for a lot of American families.
What?
Can you clarify how that will solve?
Yeah, what does that mean? Wait,
shortage?
what?
Well, because
we're going to punish companies for shipping jobs overseas. It's going to make childcare cheaper.
Resources going into the multiple people who could be providing family care options, and we're going to have to.
That's like two unrelated things.
We're going to have to spend more money. We're going to have to induce more people to want to provide child care options for American families, because the reason it's so expensive right now is because you've got way too few people providing this very essential service.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Walz, your ticket also has some child care tax credit proposals.
Some trickle-down shit?
Do you think Congress will agree to the $6,000 credit for newborns and $3,000 credit for children over the age of 6, as your campaign has promised? Is that realistic?
Well, if these members of Congress are listening to anybody, I can tell you, and this is the biggest issue. Everybody listening tonight knows. I mean, I'm sure they were shocked to hear it's not that expensive. And let's be clear, whether it's $5,000 or $6,000, that pays you about 3 or 4 months. Let's be clear of where we're at on this. It's because we got out of an imbalance on this. We thought we were going to get by not paying people. I don't think Senator Vance and I are that far apart. I'm not opposed to what he's talking about on options. We've done scholarships types of things. I think we need to be open to making the case. But the issue here is, the question you asked is, you're not going to pay for it with these tariffs. That's just adding another $4,000 on the family and taking less. So not only do they not get the money to pay for that, they're $4,000 in the hole. That's Wharton School. That's his alma mater. And so I think the issue here is, if those members of Congress, I can't believe they're not. When I go to businesses, sure, they'll talk about taxes sometime, but they will lead with childcare and they will lead with housing, because we know the problem is, especially in a state like Minnesota, we need more workers because our economy is growing, but we need the workforce.
Governor, thank you. We need to move on. Nora?
Let's talk about the
tariff
state of
on all
democracy,
goods
the top
coming into
issue
America
for
just
Americans
won't
after
fucking
the
work. I
economy
don't know how to.
and inflation. After the 2020 election, President Trump's campaign
All
and
the countries
others
affected by it are going to do some sort of
62
retaliatory
lawsuits
tariff.
contesting
The cost of goods will go up.
Judges,
It's not going to make enough money to pay for
President Trump
national
and
child
other Republican
fucking care.
presidents looked
It
at
doesn't
the
even cover the
evidence
interest on our
and
debt.
said
It's not.
there was no widespread fraud.
It just want. I don't
The
understand. Like
governors
it.
of every state in the nation,
Expert or no, it's just
Republicans
obvious
and
it's not going to
Democrats,
work. It's not some
certified
fucking
the
hidden
2020
hack for
election
free money.
results and sent a legal slate of electors to Congress for January 6th. Senator Vance, you have said you would not have certified the last presidential election and would have asked the states to submit alternative electors.
Bro said, I'm not Mike
That has been
Pence.
called
I got your back,
unconstitutional
Big
and
T.
illegal. Would you again seek to challenge this year's election results, even if every governor certifies the results? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, Nora, first of all, I think that we're focused on the future. We need to figure out how to solve the inflation crisis caused by Kamala Harris's policies, make housing affordable, make groceries affordable.
That's their line for every time January 6th is brought up. They always say we got to focus on the future.
What President Trump has said is that there were problems in 2020, and my own belief is that we should fight about those issues, debate those issues peacefully in the public square, and that's all I've said, and that's all that Donald Trump has said. Remember, he said that on January the 6th, the protesters ought to protest peacefully. And on January the 20th, what happened? Joe Biden became the president. Donald Trump left the White House. And now, of course, unfortunately, we have all of the negative policies that have come from the Harris-Biden administration. I believe that we actually do have a threat to democracy in this country, but unfortunately, it's not the threat to democracy that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz want to talk about. It is the threat of censorship. It's Americans casting aside lifelong friendships because of disagreements over politics.
Mob!
It's big technology companies silencing their fellow citizens, and it's Kamala Harris saying that rather than debate and persuade her fellow Americans, she'd like to censor people who engage in misinformation. I think that is a much bigger threat to democracy than anything that we've seen in this country in the last 4 years, in the last 40 years. Now, I'm really proud, especially given that I was raised by two lifelong blue-collar Democrats, to have the endorsement of Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, lifelong leaders in the Democratic coalition. And of course, they don't agree with me and Donald Trump on every issue. We don't have to agree on every issue, but we're united behind a basic American First Amendment principle that we ought to debate our differences. We ought to argue about them. We ought to try to persuade our fellow Americans. Kamala Harris is engaged in censorship at an industrial scale. She did it during COVID. She's done it over a number of other issues. And that, to me, is a much bigger threat to democracy than what Donald Trump said when he said that protesters should peacefully protest on January the 6th.
But why do they never talk about like the false electors?
I think there was a lot of commonality here.
And calling the Georgia governor and asking him to find votes. They don't talk about the riot.
With the senator.
That's like not the interesting part of January 6th and the whole.
This one is troubling to me, and I say that because I think we need to tell the story. Donald Trump refused to acknowledge this. And the fact is that I don't think we can be the frog in the pot and let the boiling water go up. He was very clear. I mean, he lost this election, and he said he didn't. 140 police officers were beaten at the Capitol that day, some with the American flag, several later died. And it wasn't just in there. In Minnesota, a group gathered on the state capitol grounds in St. Paul and said, we're marching to the governor's residence and there may be casualties. The only person there was my son and his dog, who was rushed out crying by state police. That issue, and Mike Pence standing there as they were chanting, hang Mike Pence.
Bro, your son's an Atrioc Reacted, you shouldn't cry.
So, Senator, it was adjudicated over and over and over. I worked with kids long enough to know, and I said as a football coach, sometimes you really want to win, but the democracy is bigger than winning an election. You shake hands, and then you try and do everything you can to help the other side win. That's what was at stake here. Now, the thing I'm most concerned about is the idea that imprisoning your political opponents, already laying the groundwork for people not accepting this. And a president's words matter. A president's words matter. People hear that. So I think this issue of settling our differences at the ballot box, shaking hands when we lose, being honest about it, but to deny what happened on January 6th, the first time in American history that a president or anyone tried to overturn a fair election and the peaceful transfer of power. And here we are 4 years later in the same boat. I will tell you this, that when this is over, we need to shake hands this election, and the winner needs to be the winner. This has got to stop. It's tearing our country apart.
Margaret?
Senator Vance, did you want to respond to that?
True. Yeah, well, look, Tim, first of all, it's really rich for Democratic leaders to say that Donald Trump is a unique threat to democracy when he peacefully gave over power on January the 20th, as we have done for 250 years in this country. We are going to shake hands after this debate and after this election. And of course, I hope that we win, and I think we're going to win. But if Tim Walz is the next vice president, he'll have my prayers, he'll have my best wishes, and he'll have my help whenever he
I think he went pretty kicking and screaming, bro.
Years in this country,
there was like
Democrats
30 lawsuits. There was the constant tweets. There was the fucking
said that Donald Trump had the election
the obvious the January 6th riot. Then there was the attempts to overturn it, to get Mike Pence to certify false electors.
This has been going on for a long time. And if we want to say that we need to respect the results of the election, I'm on board. But if we want to say, as Tim Walz is saying, that this is just a problem that Republicans have had, I don't buy that.
Governor.
January 6th was not Facebook ads. And I think a revisionist history on this. Look, I don't understand how we got to this point. But the issue was that happened. Donald Trump can do it. And all of us say there's no place for this. It has massive repercussions. This idea that there's censorship to stop people from threatening to kill someone, threatening to do something, that's not censorship. Censorship is book banning. We've seen that. We've seen that brought up. I just think for everyone tonight, and I'm going to thank Senator Vance, I think this is the conversation they want to hear. And I think there's a lot of agreement. But this is one that we are miles apart on. This was a threat to our democracy in a way that we had not seen. And it manifested itself because of Donald Trump's inability to say. He is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Oh.
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
That is a damning non-answer.
It's a damning non-answer for you to not talk about censorship. Obviously, Donald Trump and I think that there were problems in 2020. We've talked about it. I'm happy to talk about it further. But you guys attack us for not believing in democracy. The most sacred right under the United States democracy is the First Amendment. You yourself have said there's no First Amendment right to misinformation. Kamala Harris wants to use the power of government and big tech to silence people from speaking their minds. That is a threat to democracy that will long outlive this present political moment. I would like Democrats and Republicans to both reject censorship. Let's persuade one another. Let's argue about ideas, and then let's come together afterwards.
You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. That's the test. That's the Supreme Court test.
Tim, fire in a crowded theater. You guys wanted to kick people off of Facebook for saying that toddlers shouldn't wear masks.
Senator, the governor does have the floor.
Fire in a crowded theater. That is criticizing the policies of the government, which is the right of every American.
Senator, the governor does have the floor for 1 minute to respond to you.
Yeah. Well, I don't run Facebook. What I do know is I see a candidate out there who refused, and now again, and this I'm pretty shocked by this. He lost the election. This is not a debate. It's not anything anywhere other than in Donald Trump's world. Because look, when Mike Pence made that decision to certify that election, that's why Mike Pence isn't on this stage. What I'm concerned about is, where is the firewall with Donald Trump? Where is the firewall if he knows he could do anything, including taking an election, and his vice president's not going to stand to it? That's what we're asking.
This is good.
Will you stand up? Will you keep your oath of office, even if the president doesn't? And I think Kamala Harris would agree. She wouldn't have picked me if she didn't think I would do that, because of course that's what we would do. So America, I think you've got a really clear choice on this election of who's going to honor that democracy and who's going to honor Donald Trump.
Governor, your time is
up. That was my favorite part of the whole thing. That was a cook.
Right back with both of our candidates. The CBS News.
Is this guy CEO of Apple? Because Tim is cooking. Holy shit! All right, quick break. That was really good. I mean, I fully agree. It's crazy. I hate let's look at the future. And I really like the line about, hey, like the reason Mike Pence is not here is because he didn't support Donald Trump challenging the election, which is true. That is the reason Mike Pence doesn't get invited to the RNC events when no one sees him. It's because he fucking certified the election, as every other vice president has done since fucking. That's why he got kicked out. There's no other reason. There's not. I mean, so that was good. I think if I'm Vance, I think Vance has done a pretty good job of what I said before this, of trying to steer everything back to the fact of like, hey, people are fucking pissed right now. Okay? They weren't pissed in 2017. Let's go back. He's done that for a couple questions, and every time it works. You can just tell it's working. Okay? But he's on abortion, on gun control, on child care, on health care, on all the questions where he couldn't do that. He's been terrible. He's been terrible. I mean, he's been really no good. So I don't know. It depends. Again, I don't think this is going to sway the election really at all. I think they've both done well enough that both sides are going to find clips and they're going to celebrate as a win. It was interesting. I mean, I think as Americans, if we had debates like this all the time, it might actually be fucking good for the country, because people are at least somewhat hearing some. It's still theater, but they're at least somewhat hearing like the different stances, where they agree, where they disagree. Like if you did this all the time, people might actually pick up some kind of understanding of the issues and why they're different. It's way better than the last debate, which was pure theater from both sides. Pure. I don't like it that I don't like JD Vance getting cut off a lot. They both gotten cut off at least once, but JD Vance more than once, where a moderator says we have a lot to get to. I think they should let him speak. He's not saying repeating stock lines. He's at least responding, and he should be allowed to respond. I want to debate. So yeah, I mean overall pretty interesting night. But again, I just outside of that key line, I'm just fundamentally not seeing a lot from Vance on like again, gun control, healthcare, childcare, those things I didn't like. And then I think it was funny because the first two questions I think were the border and Israel-Palestine, and they both just fundamentally agreed. They agreed on like the exact same things. It was just it was whether or not the bipartisan bill in Congress would be the one. When did debate start? Debate started right now. We're in a break. It's a commercial break for C-SPAN radio. They both came off in good to their outsides with crazy press. Yeah, I think that very last part was probably Walz's best differentiating moment
in New York City for the
basically where he said like we agree on a lot of things, but we're miles apart on this. You know, the reason fucking Mike Pence is not here is there's only one reason, and it's because he wouldn't support the attempt to challenge and overturn the election. You still want to admit you lost it. Like that part was really good because.
Welcome back to the CBS News vice presidential debate. It is now
by the way,
time
30
for
days
the
to the election.
Statements. Senator
Closing
Vance
statements.
won the virtual coin toss and elected to go last. So Governor Walz, you are first. You have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you, Senator Vance. Thank you to CBS News. And most importantly, thank you to all of you. If you're still up and the folks who miss Dancing with Our Stars, I appreciate it. But look, the support of the democracy matters.
That's what we were going to watch instead on this stream.
Here. And I'm as surprised as anybody
Dancing with the Stars
of this
Tuesdays.
coalition that Kamala Harris has built, from Bernie Sanders to Dick Cheney to Taylor Swift, and a whole bunch of folks in between them. And they don't all agree on everything, but they are truly
fucking
optimistic people.
Awful blunt rotation.
They believe in a positive future of this country and one where our politics can be better than it is. And I have to tell you, that better than it is the sense of optimism that there can be an opportunity economy that works for everyone, not just to get by, but to get ahead. And the idea that freedom really means something. Not the freedom of government to be in your bedroom or exam room, but the freedom for you to make choices about yourself. Now, look, we all know who Donald Trump is. He's told us, and as Maya Angelou said, believe him when he told you that. His first inaugural address talked about American carnage, and then he spent 4 years trying to maybe do that. Senator Vance tonight made it clear he will stand with Donald Trump's agenda. He will continue to push down that road. Excuse me. Kamala Harris gives us a different option. Now, I'll have to tell you, I'm going to be careful about the quotes, but there's one that Senator Vance said that does resonate with me. He said, Donald Trump makes the people I care about afraid. A lot of America feels that way.
He did say this.
We don't need to be afraid.
In
Franklin
2016.
Roosevelt was right. All we have to fear is fear itself. Kamala Harris is bringing us a new way forward. She's bringing us a politics of joy. She's bringing real solutions for the middle class, and she's centering you at the heart of that. All the while asking everyone, join this movement, make your voices heard. Let's look for a new day where everybody gets that opportunity and everybody gets a chance to thrive. I humbly ask for your vote on November 5th for Kamala Harris.
Governor Walz, thank you. Senator Vance, your closing statement.
Well, I want to thank Governor Walz, you folks at CBS, and of course the American people for tuning in this evening. And one of the issues we didn't talk about was energy. And I remember when I was being raised by my grandmother, when she didn't have enough money to turn on the heat some nights because Ohio gets pretty cold at night and because money was often very tight. And I believe, as a person who wants to be your next vice president, that we are a rich and prosperous enough country where every American, whether they're rich or poor, ought to be able to turn on their heat in the middle of a cold winter night. That's gotten more difficult thanks to Kamala Harris's energy policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford a nice meal for your family. That's gotten harder because of Kamala Harris's policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford to buy a house. You ought to be able to live in safe neighborhoods. You ought to not have your communities flooded with fentanyl. And that, too, has gotten harder with because of Kamala Harris's policies. Now, I've been in politics long enough to do what Kamala Harris does when she stands before the American people and says that on day one, she's going to work on all these challenges I just listed. She's been the vice president for 3.5 years. Day one was 1,400 days ago.
This is good.
And her policies have made these problems worse.
Politically, I mean, it's good.
Now, I believe that we have the most beautiful country in the world. I meet people on the campaign trail who can't afford food, but have the grace and generosity to ask me how I'm doing and to tell me they're praying for my family. What that has taught me is that we have the greatest country, the most beautiful country, the most incredible people anywhere in the world. But they're not going to be able to achieve their full dreams with the broken leadership that we have in Washington. They're not going to be able to live their American dream if we do the same thing that we've been doing for the last 3.5 years. We need change. We need a new direction. We need a president who has already done this once before and did it well. Please vote for Donald Trump. And whether you vote for me or vote for Tim Walz, I just want to say I'm so proud to be doing this, and I'm rooting for you. God bless you, and good night.
Senator Vance, thank you. And thank you both for participating in the only vice presidential debate of this election cycle.
Think that's going to play really well?
And I'm Nora O'Donnell. And a reminder, there are just 35 days until Election Day.
35 days, bro!
All of us here at CBS
My God,
News.
a calendar month, and then we're there. What are they saying? What are they possibly saying? You like Atrioc too? Yeah, he's a great streamer. Oh, he's awesome. Yeah, he's awesome. I know. Can't wait to watch him and give him my Twitch Prime. GG, brother. Well played. Hey, well played. They said, let's go to Chili's. They didn't talk about golf once, I noticed. Not once did they talk about golf. Who's a better golfer? Who's a better sportsman? Who's stronger? Pretty good debate. Pretty good debate. I don't know if our standards have just gotten so low, but I thought that was pretty good, especially because the Biden-Trump and the Trump-Kamala one were both very low on anything substantive. You know, this is like an ounce. This is like a single piece of broccoli after miles of slop. It felt a lot better. Like I said, I think they both did pretty good. I don't think anyone got a TKO. And the only message I think that might break out or hit somebody is like somebody who wasn't already convinced would be the middle of Vance's closing statement about, you know, things getting more expensive because everyone feels that. And I don't think the average person is making the connection between COVID and inflation. And then the part from Walz about January 6th and about not conceding you lost the election for 4 years and then running again. I think those two parts are like, were strong and differentiated and stood out and were kind of memorable. So we'll see. But I honestly don't think this is a pole shifter really at all. I mean, maybe. My guess would be this doesn't shift the polls in any material way. They're going to be the same as they were the day before. Oh, it's a pole shifter, and you spelled it P-O-L-E. Are you trying to imply that your dick moved substantially because of this debate? It's completely unnecessary and kind of crass, okay? Certainly not something that I need to hear about. Where was Silk Song? Fucking denied again. And they didn't even talk about it. The fucking woke mind virus liberal media and the MAGA Project 2025 conservatives are one uniparty united in censoring our access to Silk Song. Okay? The real American people aren't getting the truth we want. They talked about yap, healthcare, yap, housing costs, yap, the border. Not one mention of our sequel to a beloved game. Walz and Vance at the end reminds me of my mom's brother and my dad's brother trying to make conversation when everyone else leaves Thanksgiving. Just like, now, listen, they were pretty cordial. I thought that was a nice return to form. It's the first time in a while we've had a debate where the two people on stage said, I agree with you on something. They shook hands. They said, thank you for that. It's not that fucking crazy. It helps because we have different states, random people from different parties. And if they can't agree on anything, then it's just the country literally just tears itself apart. It literally divides. There's no way to work. What's your opinion on this? Let's see. What is this? This is Tim Walz handing me a blunt. Yeah, I like it. Yeah. He should have done that with JD Vance at the start. When they opened with that serious fucking Israel-Palestine question, he should have just fucking paused, looked in the camera, passed him a blunt, and they should have said, let's smoke before this. Let's get the tension out. I will say this. I've seen this pattern 3 times now, which is Biden, Kamala, and Walz. Whenever they get the very first question of the debate, they don't start strong. They never start by just pausing, taking a breath, and saying, hey, this is my name, here's what we're doing, they always start with like jumping into some facts. They start a little nervous. They always start like, and that's why 14% of Walz got way better over the course of the debate, but so did Kamala in the last one. Like they both start very high school debate. They like very let's get the facts out. They didn't talk about the dock strike, which is kind of crazy. I wish they talked about the dock strike. I was expecting them to. It's going to be, if the dock strike continues, things are going to get really expensive before the election. The dogs are striking? No, the docks. So Vance seems like he wants to run for president in the future, and Walz says he does not. Do you think this was a good performance for Vance if he tries to run? I think this is fairly good performance from Vance. He didn't say anything like, no, he said some crazy things, but he didn't say anything disqualifying for political office. He didn't say, you know, they're eating the dogs. He didn't. I think they both did pretty good. I'm gonna just be honest. Like I think they both did. I don't think there's anything that like their party would be mad at them for. He seemed, you know, not insane or off his rocker. He didn't like refuse to agree with. You know, he did fine. I mean, there's some things that he said I deeply disagree with, but like the way he said them wasn't insane. Yeah, the only like gaffe of the whole night that I think was like a true gaffe was Walls saying, "I'm friends with school shooters." Just, obviously not what he meant. And it's annoying. It's going to get like run out of context a million times. But that was a gaffe. I mean, that, you know, that's not what he meant. And it's like a true, crazy drill lyric. He said, I mean, he was meant to say, I'm friends with the families of people who've been affected by school shooters, but yeah, school shooter parents or whatever. Not even school shooter. No, I think he's talking about people that have been affected by it. Friends with people who've been affected by school shooters. That's what he said. I don't think he's out there with, what was it, Columbine kids hanging out. Yeah, he's talking about Sandhook families. Yeah, exactly. Trump lost interest midway. So Trump's tweeting. Let's see. He's using all bold. Dude, it's so funny. At 7:02, so about an hour into the debate, he said the great Pete Rose just died. He was one of the most magnificent baseball players to ever play the game. He paid the price. Major League Baseball should have allowed him into the Hall of Fame many years ago. Do it now before his funeral. That's so funny. Bro's tweeting about Pete Rose in the middle of JD Vance talking. That's crazy. What else did he tweet? Oh, see, this is so annoying. My daughter was killed in the Parkland school shooting. It's absolutely abhorrent that Tim Walz has befriended school shooters. Disqualifying. Come on, bro. Tim Walz out there fucking dapping it up with school shooters, hanging out with them. That's what you think he meant? That's come on, bro. And then this. So this is, again, I do believe that if Donald Trump could make the choice himself and didn't matter for votes, he would be pro-abortion. I agree with that. I think Donald Trump has paid for many abortions. I think that. However, when you overturn Roe v. Wade and return it to the states, you are tacitly supporting abortion bans for a lot of people. People that would like to be pro-choice. Everyone knows that's exactly what you're doing. There's no other reason to do it. Like it's so annoying, and I just want the states to decide. Call me crazy. I just want the states. Like, you know what you're doing, bro. It was 50 years of Roe v. Wade in all states. It's not. We can cut through the BS on this. I think this is annoying. This is why Elon Musk is banning bold tweets. He did ban bold tweets. Well, actually, he didn't ban them, but like, if you're on your main timeline, you can't see the bold, but once you click in, the bold hits fucking hard. Dude, the bold makes it so much harder to read. He's just trying to walk shit back because this stuff has hurt him in the polls. Yeah, he's trying to play both, you know? Because obviously there's people around him that want to ban abortion, and he uses them and needs their support and polling. He doesn't care either way. He doesn't like defend it. He has no principle on it. So, but I think if it was up to him, he would just do the most popular thing, which is keep Roe v. Wade. How long are we streaming today? I got more hours in me. I got at least another hour. Listen, my mom is here, my sweet, sweet mommy. She's visiting me from Arizona. And so I don't want to stay. I'm probably go till 9, but we got plenty of shit to talk about. I don't know. Does anyone have any thoughts? Like, what else? Is there a Vance supporter that wants to talk? I'm not going to fucking jump down your throat. I thought he did well. I do. I disagree with a lot of what he said, but I thought he did well. He didn't come off as insane. He had a couple. I really think he's got the most unlikable little half smile. When he looked dead serious, when he was like, I thought he was fine. But when he started going, it's so, it gives me the heebie-jeebies, dude. It's smarmy. That's what it is. It's smarmy. It comes off as like the younger brother that like got away with something. And the side eye and the gymming, I didn't like all that, but he stuck to message in a way that Trump didn't do in the last debate. Like, he stuck to the message. And like I said, I think I'm of the opinion that the economy for the average American is bad right now. It's fucking bad. And I know there's a lot of stats that you can say, and I know that like it's like sacrilegious to be like, oh, I'd support Biden, but the economy's not perfect. And when you bring that up to people and you try to gaslight them that everything's all right, they get mad. What clip are we spamming? I'm sorry. Wait. There's a tweet from. When is this from? Donald Trump tweeted, "Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our defense against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly hosts, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world seeking the ruins of souls. Amen." This was like 2 days ago. I thought this was like fucking so true, though. Bless up, King. That's crazy. What else we got? Has he been tweeting like crazy? Oh, I saw this, dude. I saw this. I was going to work on a little presentation about this. I promise to make America great again, this time with crypto. World Liberty Financial is planning to help make America the crypto capital of the world. The whitelist for eligible persons is officially open. This is your last chance to be part of the historic moment. Join worldlibertyfinancial.com. And this was fucking yesterday. This is a common prayer. Yeah, this is a normal prayer. That's a swim from me. Get this guy on fucking killer whales. No, I saw this. Apparently, crypto is like a massive campaign donor. The crypto industry is a massive campaign donor this time around. That's why Trump has leaned into it more heavily. He's doing a lot of crypto shit. He spoke at the fucking conference. But that's why Kamala at that speech said something about like we have to make blockchain strong in America or something. They're both just like there's a fuck ton of money because crypto industry is trying to like get political influence to try and get the good times rolling again. To try and bring back the fucking pump. And there's a lot of crypto donations this time around. A lot of the younger generation is angry with both parties. Do you think that'll lead to a rise in third parties or more Republican support because they're anti-government? I think, like I've said, this is applying to all countries across the world. There is an anti-incumbent bias post-COVID. In the 4 years post-COVID, people have seen prices go up dramatically. There's a rise in inflation. Housing prices are still out of control. And so whoever's in power is holding the hot potato of death. And all of them are losing. Or seeing huge reductions in their win. Like, for example, Modi in India did not lose, but he won by way less than they thought he would. It was like so shocking. And so it remains to be seen because the United States is unique and because Trump is uniquely divisive and Biden dropped out, so he's no longer the running. Like if Biden had been running, he would lose. I've bet that since the January. I've bet that for a good. Biden would lose. But because it's just a unique situation, it's a real coin flip. It's a real coin flip in America. I don't know what it's going to be. But my guess is if a poll tells you that Kamala Harris has this in the bag, I would be skeptical because I think this is going to be down to the wire because of how fed up people are and just want the incumbent out. The UK switched, from the Tories. They just that's I'm saying it's going to be a fucking tight race. That's my take on it. That's. Funny tweet about the debate. Let's see. In 2017, you called Trump America's Hitler. What changed? JD Vance.
So we moved to LA. My father gets a job at the Palm restaurant. My Uncle Junior works there, who was a Jehovah's Witness, believe it or not. He went from Catholic to Jehovah. So basically, my grandmother wanted us all to switch from Catholic to Jehovah. Meanwhile, we're from Harlem. My father's doing coke. My mother thinks she's Aunt Margaret. She's teasing the hair with a bottle of vodka. So dysfunctional, cross-addicted.
Yeah, I mean, he was doing a lot of like My Crazy Family in Appalachia growing up. What do you think, Squeak? I wish Squeaks was up there debating, dude. He would have fucking cooked. Politics is so cracked. I wish we had a level-headed candidate that could communicate they want to work instead of being petty. So I thought they both did that decently well today. There wasn't that much pettiness. And that's one of the reasons I like Tim Walz, by the way. I think he's in general capable of saying bipartisan stuff, of saying things across the aisle. Of they aren't the candidate. No, I agree. I think the candidate debate. I think this debate showed how flawed presidential debates have become. I mean, the presidential debate is really a circus, bro. I mean, like complete all the talking points were either totally deranged or like super stock politician like non-answers. It wasn't George Santos tweet. What's this? Can anyone confirm if Vance is on Ozempic? He's looking thin and good. Sheesh. What else? Any thoughts on the argument about Kamala not fixing things as the VP? It seems like anyone who's taken a civics class knows the VP is an underpowered position. First of all, no American has taken a gay civics class, okay? We're all fucking too busy, all right? So that's not going to work. Secondly, the political strategy there is to tie Kamala Harris to Biden. Biden's unpopular. That's what they're trying to do. Okay? I think JD Vance knows the VP. He knows the VP doesn't do much because he's going to be a VP. But that's what they're doing. All right? And by the way, from a political POV, I don't blame them because that works. People are unhappy now. You tie them, they get it. But yeah, I think your point is valid, 100%. It's a little bit disingenuous to blame Kamala Harris for every fucking administration situation. The only thing I got from the debate was that we should prove fentanyl domestically. Yeah, exactly. I think one of the main takeaways tonight was that we're getting too much fentanyl from Mexico when we could make it right here in America. Okay? When we get our hardworking American people back in the factories to produce Fent, homegrown, get American jobs, that's clean Fent, okay? We don't want dirty Fent. We want clean Fent made in America, American jobs, American taxes paid. That's why I'm proposing the Freedom Fent administration. The door shit may have been the worst bit. Yeah, that was probably, that was one of the worst bits for sure. I think the idea that you're gonna make any difference in the rising amount of gun violence and the number of school shootings by like, let's make stronger doors in our schools. It's crazy. I mean, it's such a, I don't think it would do anything, but even if it did a tiny bit, it's such a tiny Band-Aid on a gaping open wound. Like and that was the first answer. That was like the main, that was crazy. I mean, that's like his main point in that area was about security in schools. And I didn't hear this part, but somebody said, I'm glad that Vance mentioned nuclear at one point. At least I'm being told by Chad he did. I think that's good. I wish they would both fucking say nuclear. I think nuclear is awesome. The government needs to make it easier for average people to run for office. The best candidate is probably some middle-aged dude who manages an IHOP who will never run for any form of office. Your ideal president is an IHOP manager. Maybe. I guess it depends. This but Denny's. That's crazy. This but Denny's is crazy. Like, there's a fundamental difference. That we have two people up there and one of them is managing an IHOP and one manages a Denny's. Listen, I think having some history in working with government, understanding how it works is not a bad thing. I also think understanding global issues and relative balances of power and who our allies are. And I think coming in with absolutely no education is not necessarily a huge fucking bonus, even if they're a regular salt of the earth person. There's complicated issues. You learned that at the Denny's? The Denny's manager school teaching you about fucking balance of payments with China? Yo, H-Rock, a bit off topic, but I started at IOI, and a big part of that is thanks to your Hitman videos making me aware of the company. How much of my paycheck do I need to send to you? Ooh. I would normally charge you 80% because I've done all the work to get you there. However, instead, I want you to drop the James Bond IOI game key to me a little early. That's all I need. I don't need the money. Just like, well, I forgot. Oh, shit, I actually typed it in your Discord. I deleted it. I'm sorry. Let me... Just hook me up, bro. I'm trying to fucking play more IOI games. Can you talk about the China question? I thought Walls answered it totally backwards across the folder. Which question are you referring to? Which question are you referring to about China? Oh, Tiananmen Square? Okay, yeah. So, again, I'm learning about this through the debate. My understanding is that he said he went to China during Tiananmen Square. And later it was fact-checked, and he found out he was there later that summer. So lied. Probably not even misspoke. I mean, he probably like exaggerated. You know, it's like, I mean, I don't know what context he said it in, but if it was like between then and the next 30 years, he might have been like, yeah, I was there for Tiananmen Square. I was there for the spirit of it. But that's what, I don't know the context. If he said it like under oath while defending someone who was at Tiananmen Square or something, then it's more disqualifying for me. But if it's like he said it at a cocktail party as like a brat, I don't know, it's like a LeBron thing. This debate's pretty civil. Here in Brazil, one candidate just attacked another with a fucking chair during a debate. Dude, that'd be so fucking... You guys have wrestling? You have fucking a candidate coming out with... Let's see... We got some news articles coming in. Live updates. A tense policy-heavy debate ends with clash over democracy. This is just live updates. This is just live updates. Oh, it's like them fact-checking? Oh, this is an interesting fact check. I mean, this is what I thought during the debate. He said there's a Federal Reserve study that we're happy to share that drills down the connection between increased level of migration and higher housing prices. And it's like, I don't disagree that increased migration probably does increase housing prices. But if you think that like that is the core problem with American housing, that's like, this is a multi-decade long problem that continues to get worse. It's fucking 100% due to fucking investment, lack of building. Let me see. Let's see. Here's the video of the chair attack. I don't really want to see it. I mean, I guess. All right, let's see. If it's 1 minute long, all right, we'll watch it. This is what we could have had, folks. This is what they took from us.
Você não é homem nem para fazer isso. Você não é homem. Não, Datena. Vai. Não. Nossos comerciais, por favor. Você não é homem nem para fazer isso.
Jesus Christ.
Você não é homem, Datena. Não.
Jesus Christ.
Nossos comerciais, por favor.
No better way to show you're manly than keeping your cool. When someone says you're not a man, you prove it to them by flipping the fuck out, picking up a chair, and trying to kill them. And then grabbing another one. That's the IHOP manager debate, bro. I'm sorry, this link is a NYT opinion piece. This is just a dude. This is already, I mean, this is something you write before the event and have it ready to go. I'd be interested in seeing a poll though. Maybe Polymarket? Let's see. Polymarket. I wonder if anything moved. Polymarket has Can I see the all politics? Let's see. Election forecast. Poly Market has Harris 50. This is such a coin flip. Yeah, I think it's completely unmoved from before the debate. Again, this was the last debate, right? Where Harris shot up to dead even. This is the last debate. This debate did nothing. By the way, Biden at 0, that's easy money. Bet my dude. He could come back. I swear to God, my man Joey B is going to make a comeback. I know they're counting him out, dude. I know they're counting him out, but guess what? Oh, I don't have it. Buy low, dude. They're selling $1 for free. I'm riding with Biden, baby. What year do we think we'll have presidents that are absolutely yatted? I don't even know what yatted means, bro. Is that yoked? Is that ripped? What is yatted? I'm sorry to unk up the room, but yatted. Oh, it's like tattooed. I'm sorry. Your main concern is that Vance and Walz didn't have enough tats? No, yatted is a real slang. I looked it up. Yatted means fucking tatted up. It's usually used down south in Florida area. It's a Florida slang. All right, bro. I hope we never get a Floridian tatted up president. I pray every day we don't get a fucking tatted up Floridian president. Now, a president who's yatted, that's different. Okay? That's different. A president whose ass hangs out from behind the debate stage, that's different. We had Taft? Yeah. I hope we get a president's woman who's kind of tall and strong with a nose ring. You want a president who's a woman that's kind of tall and strong with a nose ring. This sounds more like you are looking for someone to step on you, or you're seems like you're trying to look for a queen to give money to online or something. I don't think you're looking for a president to run the country. Not that you couldn't. Maisie, you want to be president? Maisie could be president. Okay? I bet American-Swedish relations would never be higher. We would get a strong alliance. My first act will be making September 30th Leon Kennedy Day. Okay, well. And I will fly the Leon Kennedy flag, which is him in a thong. This is not necessarily what Americans need right now. Okay, I understand you're getting a lot of popular support in this chat specifically, but I'm not sure that's going to be what moves the needle on the economy. Will we be able to talk about the end of the debate about the democracy? It was interesting. It was a show. Was it show? What do you mean? Yeah, I thought that was his strongest point. You didn't hammer home enough. Again, one of the things that I find difficult to, how do I say this? One of the things that makes it difficult for me to give any like credence or trust to Trump on is that everybody he works with ends up hating him. Like consistently. Like he hires people that are far like deep Republicans, and then they end up saying very negative things about him and not wanting to work with him. Like fucking someone like Rex Tillerson, who's like an oil executive. Like that's a bad sign. Like if I was hiring someone or I was going to work for somebody, this reminds me of like, you know what it reminds me of? This is why I get a bad vibe. It's just in general. Like even if I'm ignoring actions or if I'm trying to just like, you know, give benefit of the doubt. It reminds me of TSM Reginald. It reminds me of when I was thinking of working at TSM and I started asking people who worked with him. They were going to offer me this amazing pay package. And I was like, wow, this could be really cool. And like, I had every incentive to ignore the warning signs and take this money. But like, I asked people that worked with him and they were all, it was like uniformly. Again, I remember asking a woman who I would be the boss of, I would be her boss. And I was asking her like, hey, what's it like working here? And she like started crying. She started like saying how, and so like, I had just met her and it's like insane. Like that's the biggest fucking red flag that I can imagine. And I ended up like not taking the job. And I couldn't find anyone I could talk to that would be like, yeah, this is a great idea. You're going to love it. And so I like, that is the vibe I get when I look at all of these people who are politically aligned with him, but end up saying, you know, fuck this guy. I don't want to work. Like that to me is like one of the biggest warning signs, because it means not only is like, you know, whether or not I disagree on policy, it's like, I just think it's dysfunctional. I just think it doesn't work. What if she went for this ambition and just baited you? She quit. She quit almost immediately after I didn't take the job. I just want you to know. She quit almost immediately. Why don't they get 6 voters? I think, realistically, if there was another candidate that didn't have all of Trump's baggage, but had his level of being able to say things simply that appeal to voters, because Trump has, the word might be riz. I don't know. He has the ability to like bottom line shit for voters and like whatever it is. He's got aura or riz, whatever it is. If there was a candidate that didn't have all of his baggage and was just like a regular default Republican with his riz, they would sweep this election. They would crush it. Because I do think the incumbent in every party is getting destroyed. I think actually Trump is dragging down what should be a very easy win and making it a very close election because of all his baggage. I think people do have reasons to distrust him, but he's the only one who's got riz. Like nobody else in the GOP has anywhere close to like that level of ability to work a crowd, really. What do you think the future of manufacturing is going to look like based on the policies that are brought into debate? I think regardless of party, again, they kind of they move the edges. But like the bigger trend is that there's near shoring of manufacturing because of rising tensions with America and China. So people are trying to build things closer to America and in countries that aren't supply chain impacted if America and China ever. So there's that, and there's more automation. So again, barring a temporarily stoppage due to a possible recession, the long-term trend is that there's going to be more manufacturing in America because we have cheap energy and they want to make it close, but with fewer jobs. So like it's going to come back to America, and this is happening, but when it comes back, it's not bringing jobs with it the way it used to. It's like just automated, more robots. And that trend is happening regardless. I don't think either party will will shift that too much. So, does America have cheap energy? Yeah, I can't stress this enough. I think this is like something that's fundamentally misunderstood, and I think lied about in the debate. America is right now the world's only energy gigapower. It's the only one. It is massive oil producer, massive natural gas producer. And it's become this. I'm going to do a presentation on it. I got an OPEC presentation this week. Since 2015, since basically the arrival of fracking and shale, like we have produced so much more oil, and eventually became a net exporter of energy, as you're saying. Again, for the longest time, America imported oil. We didn't have enough. Now we have enough to even export it. It's a shocking change, and it's relatively recent. Nobody understands it yet. And our energy prices in America are incredibly cheap. I know that everyone complains about gas, but like that is just an American pastime. If you compare us to any other country, our gas is fucking cheap. Yeah, it's shocking. Like if you measure oil in ounces of gold, because dollars get inflated, right? So the dollar price is always going to go up. But if you measure oil in ounces of gold, it's like never been cheaper in like decades. Like oil is actually generationally cheap in terms of like ounces of gold, or like what like if you adjust for inflation. A gas tank in Sweden's like $80. Yeah, exactly, dude. Exactly. I mean, Linkus knows the difference because he's lived in Sweden and in Texas. In Texas, gas is $2.50 right now. $2.50. $2.50 a gallon versus it's unreal. And so because of that, and by the way, this is not just gas, but also natural gas. Whenever they do fracking to get gas out of the Permian Basin in Texas, they have a byproduct of a lot of natural gas. Previously, they didn't know how to use that natural gas. It would be runoff. They would let it fucking evaporate into the fucking air. Now they have a use for it. Natural gas is a market, and we have a glut of it in America. And we are finding many ways to use that natural gas in manufacturing. And it's shockingly cheap. Shockingly cheap. And so there is a manufacturing boom happening because of cheap energy. That is happening. Again, compare it to, for example, in EU, like Germany manufacturing right now. Germany manufacturing for the longest time, Germany's in a recession right now, essentially. Like unemployment's at near 6% now or something. It's bad. Germany, for the longest time, relied on importing cheap Russian natural gas and using that to power manufacturing in Germany. Then the Nord Stream pipeline got destroyed, and now Germany has to import natural gas more expensively from elsewhere. At the same time, they destroyed their nuclear plants. That's bad all around. That is causing them to be less competitive as a manufacturing place. And that's damaging their economy generationally, okay? There's none of those problems. America has no energy problems. If there's one thing that, like, America is just fucking blessed on, generationally blessed, it's energy. So it was annoying to see that constantly brought up because it's just not true. It's like literally not true. Sorry for the topic switch. What are your thoughts on the Microsoft statement regarding return to office, not doing what Amazon did? Yeah, I saw this. So if you guys know, we talked about it yesterday at Marketing Monday. Amazon is mandating 5-day-a-week return to office, end of work from home. Microsoft came out and said, hey, we're not going to do that unless. They basically said, we're not going to do that unless you guys stop working so hard, unless productivity drops. Basically, it was a non-answer. They said, like, we're wait and see. It was a wait and see that, but was like, hey, you better work fucking hard or we're going to do what Amazon did. It was kind of a non-answer, but that's what a lot of companies I think are doing, are just waiting to see how it goes for Amazon. Does that mean we might see a huge infrastructure boom when all manufacturing does return? Yes. I mean, I think my base case is that assuming energy continues the way it has, I believe in the short term we are headed for rough economic waters, but like medium to long, yeah, 100%. I think the rise in automation and the rise of cheap energy means there's going to be a manufacturing boom in America, like eventually. I don't know about high-speed rail. High-speed rail is crazy. That's more, again, the problem with high-speed rail and all this shit is more, it's like zoning laws. It's like the inability to build something without endless years of red tape, committee meetings, getting blocked, having to pay off politicians. That is the reason. Like, it's not in my backyard for everything. Like, they have to build the trains to go like fucking this way because there's no, that is the reason. It's not like a money issue and it's not a technological issue. It's not like we don't have the fucking capability. I wish the VP candidates were running instead. Me too. To be honest, me too. Me too, but they aren't. They fucking aren't. So we got a deal. What's this? CBS News? Damn, Jimmy Carter at a hundo. Look at this guy. He looks like the SpongeBob worm. That guy's at the end. He's almost ready. He's almost ready. He's almost ready to run again. He's almost ready. Can we get a Carter Biden 2028, please? Carter Biden 2028. Carter Biden 2028, dude. The experience ticket. Dude, that's just not a healthy pose. That is dude, that's crazy. Respect to the man. Seriously, I mean, respect to the man. 100 years service. He built fucking Habitats for Humanity. He's a good dude. Leaves behind a great legacy, but he's hanging on. 100 years ago, 1924. Bro was born in the roaring 20s. He was born when there were flappers. He was born before the Great Depression, before the stock market crash. Bro was conceived at a Great Gatsby party. Dude, someone in chat, I'm saying Great Depression before that. They go, before computers even. Fucking super ass motherfucker. Yeah, computers aren't even that recent, bro. Before iPads, I think. I bet he didn't even have an iPhone in school. Okay, here's a tweet I just got. I love watching democracy happen with my streamer. And this is apparently a photo of me saying, "Where's the glizzy policy?" and crying laughing. But I didn't do this. I never said this. This is a mischaracterization. No, you weren't here. I didn't do this. It's not true because it didn't happen. What is this clip? The thousands of striking dock workers are fighting something very simple: machines taking our jobs.
For LA Long Beach. And LA is fighting against this right here. I'll tell you right now. See that? There's nobody there. Automation. I work at an automated dock.
So here's the thing I'll tell you about this. It's a tough situation. Because while I am extremely pro them getting a wage increase, I understand that automation is sort of inevitable. I mean, you can't, it's safer and more efficient. So, like the ports in Rotterdam in Europe, they process like 80% more cargo containers per hour or whatever because they have automation. It's a thing. However, I am still in deep support of this union as for purely like financial and hours-based reasons. And in general, to be pro-union is like, it's a chilling effect. Like, the understanding is that there's like three centers of power. There's government, there's corporations, and there's labor. And in this country, labor has been completely gutted. No pushback at all. So like when people harp on like little things like, oh, some of these dock workers make $100,000. Some of them don't even want to work. That what like they're not understanding the corporations do the exact same thing, but they have infinite power to get their wins across. Everybody's being greedy. All three groups are going to be greedy in some way to try and win. What you need is a balance. Otherwise, you end up with one side dominating the conversation and completely running roughshod. There needs to be some sort of counterbalancing effort. That is why I support strikes like these, to create some sort of like pushback, some wall against just crushing every worker in all situations. And I don't like when you nitpick little areas of it to try and undermine it. I agree we should have more automation. But again, like, they have to make this posture every time. They do it anyway. Like, these dock workers also protested the use of cargo containers. But they eventually allowed it through. Like, it happens. It's just part of the negotiation. And what they got instead was wage increases. It's just part of the back and forth. And we go through this song and dance every time someone strikes, where it's like they have to pass this insane purity test. Everybody that wants to strike needs to be a fucking saint who's working for $2 an hour already. And it's crazy. People should be allowed to strike because they want to strike, because they're asking for more. Corporations are allowed to fucking raise prices because they want more money. It's just like a normal thing that should be considered normal and allowed to be done. But I do agree. Automation's good. And I think it'll come. I think it's going to happen regardless. What did Linkus say? Linkus. Let's all strike until we get Paper Mario content again, Madge. Or I shouldn't have said that. There's no, by the way, the game is beaten. So there's no fucking strike to be, there's nothing to do. I can't beat it again. Do you think the Democratic Party would have a better chance of winning if they implemented universal chilies? Yes, I do. I think we should have a nationwide Chili's tax credit where anything you buy at Chili's can be written off on your taxes. And also like a stimulus check, but it's only for Chili's. Like everybody gets a Chili's gift card straight from Biden every month just to get one little treat. Don't even make it big. Make it like, okay, here's the thing, chat. I gotta tell you something. There's zero fucking shot I play Paper Mario tonight. So if you're gonna do this bit where you spam dots the whole fucking night, what I'm gonna do is hit stop streaming, go hang out with my family. All right? If there's not a fucking conversation here. If I'm at a fucking party and you're fucking spamming annoying shit. Hey, Atrioc, as an Australian, I haven't watched much about the U.S. politics before the 2016 cycle thanks to the entertainment value of Trump. Is it considered normal in U.S. politics to spend so much time saying your country is bad or that the other party is terrible? I thought it'd be more we're a better fit style of campaigning. I think tonight's debate was more of like a we're a better fit. But I think American politics for a while has had the idea of the other party is the fucking end of this country worst. I think that works. I think that it just works. People, it's polarized, you know, which makes it very hard to have any give and take on anything. Did you cover the new Nike seal? I did not. I actually haven't even read too much into it. All I know about is the last Nike seal. It was terrible. Not to be that guy, but do you think America should go back to the gold standard? No, I don't. I don't. And we couldn't do it anyway. It'd be impossible at this point. But the thing the gold standard was good for, this is why a lot of things start breaking in 1971, if you like trace charts back when we get off of it, is because once you no longer have the gold standard, which was a way to counterbalance the ability of governments to print all they want. Before they got rid of the gold standard, if your government spent more than it made, other countries could take those dollars and trade them in for gold. I'd take it out of your fucking reserve. Okay? That's what you used to be able to do. And once they got off of that, there's no check and balance. There's nothing to stop government from printing as much as they want. And that's why since 1971, we've had fucking absurd divergences in prices of things like housing, real estate. There's no fucking, there needs to be something that stops. Whether it's like some countries have laws, something that like lock it in at a certain amount so that they can't go into debt. Whatever, there has to be something. There has to be, if there's nothing that stops it, then you get 120% debt to GDP, trillions in debt. I'm just looking for a chair. Hey, off topic, but I'm going to university next year in Sydney. I need to finalize my preferences. I'm currently thinking about data science, mechatronic, engineering, double, but I'm interested in business, so I don't think I consider commerce. Any thoughts, people you know who did those degrees? Go follow your heart, bro. I don't know enough about you to see what you'd fit in. I think, also, you're not locked in. If you try one and you truly hate it, try something else. Thoughts on the Dick Cheney endorsement? I hate it, dude. I hate it. I don't know why they keep mentioning it. Dick Cheney's pretty universally unpopular. Nobody fucking likes Dick Cheney. His name's Dick, for Christ's sake. Yeah, I don't think it plays as well as... But again, you know, we always have to understand that we are biased by our own demographics, by our own age, by our own everything. I mean, maybe they're seeing polling that works with a certain group of people. I mean, well, you have to understand, like, this entire race now is down to like 500 people in Pennsylvania. It doesn't, like, our opinions, if we're not those people, don't matter. It's almost locked in, bro. This entire race is getting these fucking undecided people in a few swing states. And so everything is messaged with those people in mind. And if they respond better to a Dick Cheney endorsement, then it gets included. Like that is what is being fucking targeted right now politically. Woohoo for being a PA voter. Yeah, your vote is extremely more important than mine. like 1,000 times more. C. Bailey, you're the chosen one. Your vote matters a lot, and mine doesn't matter at fucking all. AZ voter. I mean, AZ is important. You should vote. I'm not saying anyone shouldn't vote. I'm just saying, like, it's pretty clear that it's going to come down to these few swing states. Most of their states are basically decided, and that's what's going to matter. That's what's going to decide whether they get 270. Is there a feasible Republican endorsement that could matter? Mitt Romney, Mike Pence? Mitt Romney, no, but Mike Pence, yes. I do think if Mike Pence openly endorsed Kamala Harris, that would be a powerful message, because that was Trump's VP for 4 years, including these 4 years they keep talking about as like glory days. But he wouldn't do it. Mike Pence is a dyed-in-the-wool conservative Republican. Like he just fucking hates Trump. Mike Pence won't say one nice thing about Trump anymore. Fucking won't speak about him, but he hates liberals just as much, dude. The right already despises Pence, though. It's not about switching people on the right or left. That doesn't happen. There's like no words that get said that's going to change someone who's already deep polarized in America. They're locked in. They have enough TikToks of their own side to be locked in forever. Nobody's changing. There's a few people who are undecided and easy to switch. And they switch based on a few key points that break through. So if they said, hey, his VP, who's over within 4 years, thinks he's unfit and wants Kamala Harris, that could swing some people. That could work. That's a powerful message. But the real thing is about getting turnout of your own side. American politics has become more about energizing your base than it is about convincing other people. There's basically, tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions on each side. And a lot of them just stay home. They don't vote. So you need to get them excited enough to go out and vote. We're all trying to convince the 37 Muslim in the country. The economy is going to shit anyways, regardless of who wins. I'm not trying to be so doomer about it, but I do think, listen, I have my opinion on the matter, which is that unemployment will continue to tick upwards, and it's going to be a problem. And I do worry that, like, even that it could actually end up being long-term disastrous if Kamala wins into a recession. It'll torch any chances of anyone else winning for a long time. I think she'd handle it better. I think the 20% tariff is going to be just absolutely brutal for regular people. I think the tariff on all goods is going to be, it's just so foolish, I think. But, I feel like whoever wins this year loses. I do believe this. Like, my current base case is that whoever wins this year is going to get crushed in 28. But I also don't think Trump runs again. Maybe. I mean, he'd be so fucking old. He'd be Biden old. Maybe. I don't think he runs 28. He said he's not running in 28. This might surprise you. This might shock you. This might blow your mind. Sometimes Trump says things and then later does different things. Sometimes in the history of Donald Trump, he has said he's going to do something or not do something, and then later done something different. So I can't 100% take this statement as a fact. He can't run again. It's 2 terms in the conversation zone. He can't run again. That's correct. If he wins this time around. I'm talking about if he lost this time around, would he run again in 28? He could. You'd be allowed to, but he might not do it. Didn't Bush get in office because of Florida nursing home county? The ballot design change becoming more confusing than the organization wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, I was alive for this. I'm an unk, dude. Even as a little kid, we saw it on TV. There was like there was the ballot in Florida, and it had like these weird lines that didn't line up, and you didn't know who you were voting for. And then they were like, "Oh, I need a recount because the hanging chads, the hanging chads." It was this whole fucking thing. And now we're all chads hanging out. How did that work? Holy shit. Do you think if Trump loses, he tries for Congress? No, I don't. I do not think if Trump loses, he starts running for fucking district comptroller or something, bro. I think he... Here, listen, again, my base case is that unemployment is going to keep rising. It's going to keep ticking up. And so I think if Kamala wins, it's going to be it's going to be a Republican down ballot. They're going to win House and Senate, and she's not going to be able to get anything through. And there's going to be a constant drumbeat of Trump tweets. Kamala recession, Kamala. So when I think about that, it's frustrating future to announce to me. Even though I think if you throw him into the situation, we're also going to have a recession, and I don't know that his plans are going to work very well. It puts me in a tough spot, right? I'm in a tough spot. I'm just trying to adapt and learn and listen to these debates, learn as much as I can. I mean, look, I don't know. I don't get into it. I'm not trying to. Obama managed a second term after inheriting recession in times different. He did do this 100%, but Obama is a generational candidate, and they were pulling out of the recession by the end of the 4 years. And it's possible that happen again. So that's a fair point. It's a fair point. I guess I'm thinking too short. I'm thinking 2 years from now, and I'm thinking about all the down ballot races. I'm thinking about all the Senate races and the House races. But it's a fair point. And also, I don't think Kamala is Obama. I'll be honest with you. I just don't. I think unless Kamala has a rip-roaring economy and a good time, I don't think she wins re-election. I just think she doesn't have the fucking the sauce. He had generational riz, and there's something to it. Politicians have generational riz. I'm an electrical engineering major who wants to work in power. Bad idea. I like it, but peers say pay isn't good. Well, I would not listen to your peers on the future of industry or pay. They may be right. You should look more into it. But I would say this line of thought would lead you to jump into a lot of bad careers that got oversaturated immediately and end up with you being I think if you have an engineering-based interest, follow that shit. You can make a lot of money. If you're a top engineer in any field, you're fucking good, okay? And you become a top person in your field by being interested in it. So I think if you are truly interested in power and like want to be an expert at it, I think that's a good idea. I think you will find work and you will find a way to make that work. But that's, again, I am not an expert in the industry. I have to look more into it. What about a computer science cybersecurity double major? My understanding is that comp sci is fucking difficult to find a job in right now. Comp sci is had a massive fall off since 2021, and there's a huge glut of candidates, and it's difficult. Cybersecurity, however, is a little bit different. Cybersecurity is in high demand as corporations get more and more data leaks, and it causes them to get either massive lawsuits or lost customers or huge fucking legal issues. They are desperately trying to like shore themselves up for cybersecurity. But like everything, like, right? So there's a undersupply, which makes wages super high and everyone wants to go into it. And then there's a glut of people that all follow that at once. And then it flips. That's like the cycle that happens is, there's something that's like, oh, this job is so great. There's nobody has it. You can make a ton of money and everybody does it. And then there's a glut. What about marketing? Probably a fucking terrible idea right now. Not to be scary to anyone who's like, oh, I watch Marketing Monday, I chuck a marketing major. Marketing, probably right now, really tough. Tons of fake fucking scammy jobs. Companies in any sort of downturn, the first thing they cut is marketing budget. It's just to being real, it's not going to be fucking, but again, it's like marketing is a broad thing. There's a lot of different types of marketing. I do think if you're someone who can market well, that knows influencers, TikTok, if you know like some of the newer things that actually fucking work and nobody who's a boomer marketer knows them, there is an advantage there. Like you have but it's difficult. True. Every time you see gaming layoffs, 100% of the time it's marketing discipline get act. Yeah. They cut marketing first in downturns. Like it's a proven cycle. Because they think they can get away with it. And then because when you cut marketing, the damage to your company isn't felt till later. It takes a while to trickle that through. So it's the easiest to cut. Nuclear could be great. It's right now. I mean, it's all speculative, but like right now is an incredible time to understand and know more about nuclear energy. If you could work in that and have any sort of knowledge on it, there's about to be some kind of nuclear boom, as not even governments put into it, corporations put their money into it, because corporations are trying to get nuclear power to support all of the fucking AI data centers. Microsoft is like fucking restarting 3 Mile Island to try and fucking, they need more power. There's not enough power. So they are trying to, like, there's hot demand in the private industry from corporations to understand nuclear better. Is there a chance of gaming tonight? I think, no, I think not. Actually, I think I'm about to rap. About to rap. Give me a beat. Can I, where's my, dude, I don't have any fun. Boots and cat, big A on the beat. No, it's because I started at 5:30. I'm doing my 3.5 hours. I'm being consistent about it every day. No skips, but I want to spend time with my mom while she's here. She's only here till Friday, and I wanted to like watch a movie with her or something. So I will say thank you. I will say it was fun watching the debate with you. That shit was fucking based. That shit was fire. We'll be back tomorrow. I didn't get to do it today because the debate took actually longer than I thought in the post-debate. I have a presentation on Magic the Gathering's insanity that's happening in the world. And if you don't play Magic, you'll still find it interesting. Card bans, stock price plummeting, drama, death threats, and more. We're doing that tomorrow. That's a guarantee, okay? So, see you tomorrow. We'll talk about it more. I'm going to spend time with my mom and then probably play a league with Stans. Good night. Thanks for watching. Should we raid somebody? Who's live? Who's live? We can give a big fat post-debate raid. How about fucking Connor eats fucking pants, dude? My goat. Do you know that he got into Haley Welch's DMs? Hawk Tua girl? Ask him about that. I want to know more about it. He's the face of Deadlock. It's actually, I'm not joking, it's fucking crazy how good Connor is at social media. Specifically Twitter. Connor is probably the best tweeter in the world. For like pound for pound, for like his content creator size and reach or whatever, he hits so above his weight class. He's world class. He's up there with Titans. He's incredible. And he gets fucking incredible guests. Anyway, I gotta go. Good night. Thanks for watching.